Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. I hope that your week has been absolutely outstanding thus far, and you are roaring and ready to go today. We got some great segments coming up and breaking news right now, courtesy of our friend Phil Holloway. He's a defense attorney out in Georgia, and he's posting for us on this lovely day before we all indulge another delicious treat, courtesy of Phil Holloway. He says the Fani Willis fiasco is over. The Georgia Prosecuting Attorneys Counsel has moved to dismiss the entire case. Breaking news, courtesy of Phil Holloway, ESQ over on X. And a very short order, of course, Big Fani, the biggest Fani in Georgia, DA of Fulton County, was prosecuting Trump and a bunch of other people who did not deserve it at all. She got disqualified for indicting her lover called Nathan Wade. They had those 2-hour working lunch meetings. They were texting each other like thousands of times. Okay, more than you've ever texted anyone in your entire life. I think more text messages than I've ever sent to anybody in my entire life cumulatively. They were sending to each other. It's pretty amazing. And she paid him $700,000. And the whole case was just rigged. Of course, they were colluding with the January 6th committee. They were colluding with Jack Smith. And Fani got disqualified. And now guess what? Nobody wants to touch the case. The noxious odor is so stinky that nobody wanted to pick up what Fani Willis was working on. They're like, do you want to... Somebody was walking around in a hazmat suit out around Georgia, full outfit, full mask, gloves, everything. And they had the Fani Willis case file, manila envelope like this. And they're walking this around to other prosecutors. Like, you want to take this file? Like, no. Get out of my office. I'm calling the CDC. I can smell that from the next zip code. So nobody wanted to touch it. And now they filed this motion. Comes now, the state, by and through Peter Skandalakis, District Attorney Pro Tem, who's filling in for Big Fani. And after a thorough examination of this case file that stinks, consideration of applicable statutory and case law, and prior submission to a jury, the state hereby moves for entry of a nolle prosequi, a nolle pros, for the following reasons, which is basically voiding out the prosecution. We're going to end it to serve the interest of justice and to promote judicial finality. We are ending it. So for all remaining defendants, this disposition meets the criteria of Georgia rules. And therefore, the case is over. Nolle pros is we're basically voiding the prosecution. We're deciding not to move forward with it. And shout out to Phil Holloway for sharing that very delicious early Thanksgiving treat. What a nice day. Shout out to Phil Holloway. So we appreciate the insight on that. So what does this mean for the remaining defendants? Case is over. They're done. And we're happy to see that. Will there be any consequences for Fani Willis? No, unlikely. We're going to repost this at the top of our timeline so you can go give Phil a follow. And it looks like there's a memo attached to this somewhere. And we are not seeing that, but I'm sure that will be out at some point. But very nice decision. All right, so that just broke moments ago, 11:26, 10 a.m., fresh out of the oven. Fani Willis blown out. The noxious odor now dissipating very slowly, but it's like a nuclear bomb went off down there. You know, it's got like a half-life. It takes like 50 years for half of the noxious odor to dissipate based on the element number of phananium 235, which is coming out of the DA's office. All right, so all that breaking news. Happy to see it. Happy Thanksgiving. Now, we've got a bunch more stuff to attend to. So coming up, we've got Jack Smith, we've got new emails, all of the co-conspirators that were communicating amongst themselves to spy on our congresspeople. Got a bunch of emails that just dropped on that. So we'll get into that. And we got reaction to this as well. Also some news about this J6 pipe bomber. Apparently, she has an alibi for why this alleged person didn't drop the pipe bombs off or the training operation devices or whatever they happen to be, because of a video alibi. Wait till you hear what that is. It's just amazing. Then we got some Epstein documents coming up. Now, there was an interesting FOIA request that went out from Bloomberg News. They sent this over to the DOJ. They said, we'd like to know what you guys were communicating about internally, back and forth when the email saga was unfolding throughout the administration. And we've got their emails. So the DOJ sending a bunch of messages back and forth. And inside, we learned that there were a lot more video cameras in that prison than they originally told us. And they don't, of course, have much of that released. So we'll see how much evidence they actually have. And it's a lot. And then we got Derek Chauvin. Man, he dropped a 71-page petition for post-conviction relief. So we've got two ways that you can get rid of a criminal conviction most commonly. One is to appeal it. You've been convicted. You can go and appeal it. He's done that. He's lost. There's another mechanism that we don't talk about as often because it's usually less successful, but it's called a petition for post-conviction relief. It's once you have been convicted, the time for appeals have all evaporated, but there's another mechanism. It's like, well, what happens if you're convicted of a DUI and you learn 6 months later or a year later or 5 years later that the cop who drew your blood was inserting alcohol into it, via a syringe or something like that, right? You're like, what? This cop got busted 5 years later, and you realize maybe he did that on my case. Well, the time to appeal's over. Very strict limitations on timing on that. So what else can you do? It's called a petition for post-conviction relief. And Derek Chauvin of the George Floyd situation. George Floyd, of course, died, we say, by heart failure because he had a big problem, several big problems with his heart. We'll get into it. But Derek Chauvin dropped a massive petition, bunch of images and videos, and we'll go through it to see if he can have some success on that, because he was railroaded as hard as anybody was back during the summer of love. Violent, but mostly peaceful, whatever. All right, so all that's coming up. Members, stick around after the show is over. We'll have our members only session today. It's going to be great. So come join us when the show is over. We'll have you back over on the after party on YouTube and locals, and we'd love to have you. Thank you for becoming members. Welcome to our newest of new members. Grateful to have you. We appreciate you. Thank you for supporting our work. Thanks for joining up and connecting with our community at a deeper level and making what we do here possible. We love you. All right, so now, quick update on the presidential schedule. Our plan is we'll be here tomorrow, probably a short show. I just don't think there's much going on, but we're planning on being here because it's Thanksgiving and we want to express our gratitude and our thankfulness for you. So, and for what we do here. So we're grateful for that. So we'll be back tomorrow. Probably just a short little show just to come say hello, see what everybody's up to. But the president has the schedule released. Of course, he's now down in Florida at Mar-a-Lago. No public event scheduled tomorrow, light day. Going to be having a phone call with some service members and then gobbling down the turkey. Although we're not eating the Biden turkeys. He pardoned them yesterday, even though Biden used the auto pen for them, so it's really invalid. But Trump is a magnanimous person, so we won't be eating those turkeys. But then on Friday, no events scheduled. Saturday, nothing. And then on Sunday, they're heading on back to the White House. So pretty light couple days. It's the holidays. And so hopefully you've got something fun and enjoyable cooking over these next few days. But we will be back tomorrow, so hopefully we see you there as well. Now, without any further ado, let's get into the news of the day, because here we go. Jack Smith's spying co-conspirators now busted. New emails released that show what they were saying to each other back and forth as they were rounding up evidence to go after sitting senators and House representatives. Guys like Ron Johnson and Jim Jordan had their records gobbled up by Jack Smith and his goons. And now these emails have come out. We're learning a lot more about what went down and how they justified this spying operation against their Republican opponents. But Ron Johnson summarized this pretty nicely here. He says, we just got some new documents from Pam Bondi. Thank you, Pam, for sending those, showing DOJ officials searching for any pretext at all to target their political opponents. And we go through all of this in the context of the left screeching and shouting about Trump weaponizing his office against them. And you go, my goodness, look at these emails we're about to, including me, Ron Johnson, and my colleagues. Now, Jack Smith conducted a massive partisan dragnet aimed at crippling the Republican Party, and that you can't understate that, and eliminating political opposition. These records are only the tip of the iceberg. And we know that's why we're so animated about this. This is why we're so upset that James Comey's case got dismissed, although we think it's coming back. We want justice on this because this was an attempt to seize and consolidate total power throughout the institutions. And we've got all these various investigations, of course, Crossfire Hurricane, the Mueller investigation that emanated from that. Then we get the Jack Smith investigations that were inheriting the Arctic Frost investigation. But these are all the same FBI people. Okay, there's different directors. It goes from Comey to Wray, now to Cash, but it's the same entity. And it's many of the same people who are in these positions indefinitely. That's how the deep state survives. All the figureheads come and go, but the real mechanics don't change. And so here you can see Johnson, Jordan, and many others got spied on. And we're going to go through the emails and learn a lot more about who these people are. But what's interesting about this is two people you'll be familiar with that we've talked a lot about here. Now, historically, hard to get information about prosecutors. Okay, they get on the internet, they go work for the DOJ, they shut everything down, they lock everything. All of their profiles, whoop, headshots, all deleted. Nobody knows who they are. They like to hide in the shadows and in the gutter. But once a new administration comes in and they run away, fleeing off a sinking ship, they go and they start working together and they form their own law firms. In this case, you have this one called Gaston and Cooney. Gaston and Cooney. Do they have a logo? Oh yeah, it's over here. Here, let's turn off dark mode so we can properly see what that logo looks like. Gaston and Cooney. It's a boutique law firm located in Washington, D.C., and they offer a range of legal services. They've got a lot of experience spying on senators and Republicans. Do you need help with that? We know a lot of Democrats do. So call your friends at Gaston and Cooney, PLLC. And they were around for a long time. We made a lot of fun of Molly Gaston, who is this woman right over here, because she was prosecuting President Trump, and she was making arguments to Judge Chutkan in the January 6th case, saying that the defense really didn't even need to read any evidence at all because she highlighted the evidence for them. And she used like sticky notes, and she organized a table of contents. So the prosecutor is saying, I've already pre-processed, pre-digested the defense evidence, and I've given it to them. And so they're good. They don't need time to review the evidence. How many pages of materials? Like 14 million. How long did a lawsuit like Walmart versus Visa take when they had 7 million pages of documents? Like 7 years. How long did Trump get for double the amount of material and information? Like 6 months. Thanks to Judge Chutkan. Why? Because Molly from the DOJ highlighted everything nice and orderly for everybody. And Chutkan's like, wow, this is really neat. Great job, Molly. Now, I thought Molly was like, 27 or something, but apparently she's not. So you'll hear more from her. She's sending emails back and forth. JP Cooney is this other guy. They're, of course, career prosecutors, 10 years over here, 18 years over here. They've been in there forever. Then, holy crap, Trump wins. They spend years trying to take him out. All of their emails now released. And so they abandon ship and they go and they start their own law firms to be hired by other Democrats having done a successful job. So these letters came down and the Oversight Committee released them saying new Arctic Frost emails have been released. They show the behind the scenes conspiracy to spy on senators and members of Congress. And conspiracy is a term of art that implies criminality. Flagging all of these individuals for being caught up in it. And it's probably, as Ron Johnson said, just the beginning. So we also saw that Mike Lee said, this is what politically motivated lawfare looks like, Senator. With the Arctic Frost gang, setting their sights on me, several of my colleagues, and various conservatives, but with no explanation at all. Those responsible for this will soon be required to testify under oath. Hearings coming soon. And he's talking to you, Molly and JP, and the rest of you guys who thought that you could just run away from this, try to take out an entire political party, and then just go start your own law firm, and then, just escape all liability and culpability. And I hope, of course, that they're afforded all the presumptions of innocence and due process that everybody's entitled to, and that they afforded to everybody that they attacked. Give them the same standards, since nobody's above the law. So we'll see if they're actually hauled in here, or if these senators do anything about it, or if they're just going to just sit there and send letters crying about this for the foreseeable future, or if they'll do anything about it. But here are what some of the letters look like that have been released. Internal DOJ letters now released, produced to Congress by the DOJ. And thank you, Pam Bondi, for doing this, for releasing some records so that we can read them and identify these people, because in many ways, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And these people all hide in the shadows, and they all think that as long as their people win, none of the evidence will ever come to light. In fact, even Kash Patel knows who filled those burn bags full of compromat that they had to destroy. So here's one email. This one goes from MGG. So we're presuming this is Molly Gaston, highlighter girl, who we just looked at, over to JPC, which will be JP Cooney, her new law partner. They're working together. They're also copying this dude, which is TPW, which I believe is going to be Thomas Wyndham, who was highly involved in all these prosecutions for the journey of them for a long time. So here Molly sends to these two Jack Smith goons, May 16th. Let's talk about these emails. They start down here at the bottom. Molly, she says, hey, JP, Ray, copying this guy. Ray, this is another dude, RNH. And CCing Thomas. Okay, so it's the whole little foursome here. Hey, JP and Ray, as requested, please see our memo on our request to subpoena toll records. We got 4 names now, hopefully all part of a grand conspiracy. Now that you can see, they write this. From JP Cooney. He says, I know it won't be to one company, but pretend for a minute, Molly and Thomas. For the period January 1, 21 through January 20, 21, what if we said this? Produce subscriber information and call and text SMS detail records for the following people. Mike Lee, Tommy Tuberville, Marsha Blackburn, Bill Hagerty, Tim Scott, Cynthia Loomis, Dan Sullivan, and John Kennedy. John Kennedy on top of it. Should we add Cruz, Hawley, Perry, Gomert, others, says JP Cooney? Yeah, just go after everybody. All the Republicans. Just attack them all. Why not? Yeah, add them to the list. Who cares? Messages come back out from JP Cooney. He says, what about Kevin McCarthy too? And where are these people, honestly? We've heard some upset posts from Marsha, Tuberville, Mike Lee we just read. Kevin McCarthy, John Kent, these people should be calling for jail immediately, like 24/7. How dare you spy on our records? We should also include, to the extent we don't have, Jim Jordan, Judiciary, Lindsey Graham. Go after him too. And Jim Jordan's like, I really can't wait to call Jack Smith in here and ask him some questions about this. Why are we more upset than they are? Some of them are very upset. Ron Johnson, what about him? What about Mike Kelly? It's like a Christmas list. You're like going to the grocery store. No, yeah, get some more of those too. Those are not good for you. I don't care. I want them. And we're just going to eat and eat and eat. We're getting fat. Okay. It's May 16, 23. Trump's going to run again. We got to take out the entire party. They indicted him 4 times. They tried to remove him off the ballot. They were like those people at Black Friday events when they're running out, stealing a bunch of stuff that they didn't pay for. Just add something else. Throw that in there. Ransacking it. Yeah, another big screen TV. Yeah, shoving Kevin McCarthy up there. All 4 of them. Just having a little field day. They write, okay, to JP Cooney, the other guy's called Ray Hulser. Now, some of these people are not there anymore. Hopefully they're all gone. But I wonder about some of them, like Ray. I don't know if he's still there or not. We'll see. But here, the election investigation team, here's their little stupid memo. Okay. It's like 3 paragraphs saying here, okay, through this memo, we seek authorization to issue subpoenas for a limited set of toll records belonging to members of Congress. They write like a page and a quarter of a memo. And that's their approval to go spy on members of Congress, about a dozen of them. Saying whom we're going to go after the people whom Trump or Rudy contacted on January 6th. If Trump or Rudy reached out to them, carte blanche, go after them. We get years of their records. Our investigation suggests that Trump and Rudy reached out to various members he was the president and the president's attorney in the period surrounding J6 to ask or pressure them to delay the certification of the vote, including in some cases on the night of J6 and the hour before Congress resumed the joint session, which they're allowed to do. That joint session at that time was not just ceremonial. You don't just show up and process the sausage. There was a legitimate argument that could be had. And it was about to be had until they encouraged January 6th to happen and enabled it. Ted Cruz was about to object. We were about to have formal debates about all of it. That's why they were making those calls. That's all legal. It's no justification. There's no cause there to go spy on people for doing things that you're allowed to do. Trump was still the president at that time. He's still allowed to talk to Congress. He's got immunity against all of that. Supreme Court even found it. Now, including in some cases on the night of J6 and the hour before Congress resumed the joint session after the attack on the Capitol, which again, he's allowed to do. We have ample predication to seek these records and have selected a narrow time period to reduce the chance of capturing activity unrelated to J6. Yeah, that's why they went after Jim Jordan's records for 2 years. We intend to subpoena all toll records from J4 to J7 for these people. Blackburn, Graham, Hagerty, Hawley, Loomis, Johnson, Kennedy, Scott, Sullivan, Tuberville, Rep. Mike Kelly. We already have records indicating that Trump and Giuliani sought out many of these members at pivotal times on J6. He's allowed to. He was the president. Based on emails sent by Trump aide Molly Michael, Trump tried to reach Hawley and Hagerty about 6 p.m. 7:34, Trump advisor Boris Epstein sent a text message to Mark Meadows indicating that Trump had asked Giuliani to place multiple calls. Hey, evening, Mark, said the text. POTUS asked the mayor to call these senators. Are these the correct numbers? Which he's allowed to do. And just to be clear on this, he got prosecuted. He had to defend himself. Went all the way up to the Supreme Court arguing about presidential immunity. What did the Supreme Court find? That it exists, as everybody understood until he got prosecuted, which they didn't care. Like, well, we don't really know if it exists, so we're just going to prosecute him anyways. But it clearly existed. The Supreme Court said we've got these 3 buckets. One, if it's within your presidential duties, it's immunized. If it's arguably within your duties, it's immunized. And if you want to make the argument that it's not, you got to present that presumption. You got to overcome that presumption of immunity for the presidency. And then lastly is non-immune conduct. But that's if it's absolutely not presidential conduct in the 3rd bucket. So this, as the sitting president, to reach out to senators and to congresspeople about that, you're allowed to do that. None of this should have gone past this memo. But they didn't care. They said, based on emails sent by Trump's aide and text messages, someone said, evening, Mark, POTUS asked the mayor to call these people. The text then listed Tuberville, Loomis, Kennedy, Hagerty, Blackburn, Scott. That evening, Giuliani left Tuberville a message asking for help delaying the certification. If there's fraud in the election, which there was, massive fraud, as we've talked about, even the CIA was involved in the fraud. That evening, well, then the president has an obligation to investigate that. You might say, well, it's also election related, and it's also related to the president, staying in power. That's true. But he also has an obligation to make sure that the elections are not stolen. And the CIA helped literally to create talking points for the Joe Biden campaign. They used CIA resources and assets to do it. So they helped steal the election. So the president was investigating that. So was Congress. So that evening, Giuliani left Tuberville a message asking for help delaying the vote. Giuliani's toll records corroborate that Giuliani called Blackburn at 6:59. Then Tuberville, 702. Then Haggerty, 708. Bang, bang, bang. No one's answering. Sullivan, 714 and 718. Now, although, this is curious, although the select committee, okay, so where did they get this information? Where did they even get Giuliani's texts? Where did they get any of this evidence to launch this memo? Well, probably from Liz Cheney, the illegally constituted January 6th Select Committee. Although the committee's report suggests that Giuliani tried to call Graham, we do not possess such evidence, but we're going to spy on him anyways. So finally, we propose subpoenaing records related to Johnson and Kelly because there is evidence that campaign officials involved in the electors' scheme asked staff to Johnson and Kelly to accept Wisconsin's fake certificates, which are called alternate certificates, and provide them to Mike Pence on J6. And then after J6 happened, then they changed the rules, okay? Because the rules said that you could actually, and we said, well, he's not going to do this, but he would have the decision to say, well, actually, I've got two competing slates of electors. One that this party deems to be legitimate, one that deems these to be legitimate, and I will honor which one. Then they changed the rules and they made that much more ceremonial. So basically you just accept the one that came from the governor. But at the time they were alternate electors and they're just saying you can't do it. It's all illegal. Any Trump phone calls justify spying on Republican senators. So these records would advance our investigation in several ways. So it's like a, grade school essay. Why do you need this information, little Robbie? Well, it would advance our investigation in several ways. Number one, teacher, although in many cases we have some record of these calls, when Giuliani, he got members of records that would corroborate Giuliani's calls, it would allow us to see who may else have called these members. Like we know Giuliani called them, but who else may have called them? Like was it Trump's chief of staff? Did the president himself call? So we need to go get their records. With respect to Hawley and Haggerty, we do not have toll records reflecting the calls that Michael suggested Trump had placed to them. We also have subpoenaed Verizon to identify some apparent gaps in our switchboard records, including the Hawley and Haggerty calls. So they're scraping through the White House records. But Verizon's initial response was that there was no responsive records to our request. And Verizon bent over backwards to assist them. Remember, AT&T said, we're not giving you subpoenas. These are Congress people. We're not giving you records. You have to notify them. So they just stuck with Verizon. Verizon was like, yeah, here, whatever you need. We hate the Republicans, so here, have our records. Finally, an important issue in our investigation is who was involved in the electors' scheme, called alternate electors, which is a legitimate path of contesting the outcome of an election and has been used before historically. It would be relevant and probative to our investigation if Johnson or Kelly were in phone contact with any of the electors close to J6. Once we receive your approval, we will conduct a consultation with PIN, which is the Public Integrity Group, P, Public Integrity, IN, and advise them of the above facts before issuing subpoenas. So those go out, that's the memo, and they send that to each other, add in a bunch of people, and they say, yeah, that's perfect. Like a page and a quarter is enough to justify gobbling up the phone records of sitting senators. So then more emails come down. And you see this one is sent. Hey, JP Ray, here's the memo. Then Ray responds. Okay, he just read what we read. He says, this is more than enough from my perspective, like a page and a quarter. Great job. Yeah, that's perfect. JP Cooney, Molly's new law partner, says, agree. We will discuss with Jack today. Go ahead and get Matt to start drawing up the process, like instantly. They all read it in 5 minutes. They send an email right back, 7:19 in the morning, same day, May 17th. Wow. This is great. Great job, Molly. Yeah, more than enough. It's like nothing. Sure, go spy on him. Then we get some more emails back and forth. John, who is over in the public integrity section, their real acronym is really, I'm sorry to say this, but it's really, PIS, P-I-S, Public Integrity Section. But they know that they don't want to be a part of the PIS section. So they call themselves PIN, Public Integrity, P-I-N. They don't want to talk about the section part because they don't want to be a part of Team PIS, which they are. So just to be clear. So John D. Keller, he's the principal deputy chief over there. Now they're sending some emails back and forth. Molly sent this one over to Team PIS. Says here, John, I hope you're doing well, and congrats on the recent trial. I hope you've gotten some rest since the verdict on this one. I'm writing to consult with the PIN, Public Integrity, on some narrowly tailored subpoenas. So her team says, hey, this is great. We love it. JP Cooney, the other dork. Yeah, amazing. This is great. Great job, Molly. Send it over to get validation from the PIN section. Says here, these are some narrowly tailored subpoenas that we plan to issue for records belonging to members of Congress. What? Congress? In particular, we intend to issue subpoenas from J4 to J7 for Blackburn, Graham, you know the list. Our investigation says that on or about J6, Trump and Rudy reached out to these members to pressure them to delay the certification of the vote. On some cases, even on the night of J6, in the hours before Congress resumed after the attack on the Capitol, our evidence says Trump appears to have reached out to Hawley and Haggerty at 6 p.m. on J6 and some 7 p.m. that night. Trump asked Giuliani to call a bunch of others, and Giuliani left voicemails around 7 p.m. And he was intending for these senators and others to help delay the certification, which again was their right, by the way. Just because they tapped people on the shoulder and let them waltz into the Capitol building after setting fake pipe bombs elsewhere to distract everybody and denying the National Guard after Stephen Sun called a dozen times saying, can we please have some help? They said, decline. After all of that, even if they wanted to come back in and say, yeah, our election was stolen, then they could have done that. Now, they wouldn't do that because they're, Congress people and mostly pathetic. So they came back in. We were attacked. We have to certify Joe Biden now. Okay, why? Because you got attacked. So now that invalidates the fact that we had a rigged election. But it did. Nobody wanted to talk about it. They're like, we're so mad at Trump for causing this. And it worked. It was the cleanup. They stole the election. Then they needed to impeach Trump. They needed to get him out without creating a big declassification problem. So J6 happens. Then they have that as leverage against Trump. Hey, don't declassify a damn thing. If you do, the Senate will convict you. Mitch McConnell putting pressure on him, and then Trump left. Didn't really do anything. Too consequential on the way out. And that was the strategy. So then he makes those calls. Again, they could have come in. Congress could have come in and said, yeah, I don't care if we just got attacked, whatever. We're still going to object to a stolen election. But they didn't do that. Cruz and the rest of them like, yeah, Joe Biden's our president now. We're so traumatized. So around 7 p.m., then they said that there was a slate of fraudulent electors. So we are seeking call details for members of these people for 4 days. We have intentionally limited the time period to narrow the chance of collecting unrelated materials. These are non-content records that will not reveal the substance of the comms. Please let me know if you have any questions about this. I've highlighted all the pertinent details for you. Signed, Molly, highlighter girl, in the Chutkin prosecution. So then he responds. He says, oh, thanks, Molly. Good to hear from you, says John. And I'm glad you're getting set up in your new role on Jack's team, being a partisan hack. Based on the email below in our conversation, PIN, another co-conspirator, John D. Keller. PIN, who is actually Team PISS, concurs that the subpoenas for toll records concurs in the subpoenas. So we agree with you. Go get them. As you're aware, there is some litigation risk regarding whether compelled disclosure violates the speech or debate clause. He says there's some case law around this. I'm a lawyer. Remember the DC Circuit had the Rayburn case, said, quote, the bar on compelled disclosure is absolute. And there was another one from the Third Circuit, 1978. It says thus, the telephone calls placed or received by the member or his staff in gathering from outsiders, which is weighed in the process of deciding how to vote, may still be privileged as to use against him. Now, even putting aside the government's potentially meritorious argument that the calls over the related period, especially unsolicited incoming calls, are not protected, giving my understanding of the low likelihood that any of the members listed below would be charged, the litigation risk should be minimal here. Wild. So John, co-conspirator, who's helping Molly, is saying, actually, there is some case law like there's bars on compelled disclosure, telephone calls, maybe privilege. In other words, you can't use it against them. He's saying their protections, they exist against being charged, not about getting the materials. So we're probably not going to charge them. And so they're not even going to know about it. And they're not going to have opportunities to fight or contest this. So since the litigation risk is minimal here and we're not charging them, I concur. Go get them. There's no public problems with this. So John D. Keller can join in with the rest of them as co-conspirators. So we now have 5 people involved in this. Now, Molly says, oh, great. Hey, JP and Ray, here's the revised memo that includes the fact that the team piss people concurred. And below is the consult with them. He says, yeah, there's a couple of cases here, but it's about privilege and it might be an invasion, but it's not related to legislative acts. So just go get it, says John D. Keller. So wow, great. So the people who were supposed to validate us just rubber stamped it. They read a page and a half and said that was perfect. So then we get the updated memo. We consulted with Penn, and Penn concurs in the subpoenas proposed. Goes in and adds another little sentence there. And now everybody has signed off on it. Wow, isn't that convenient? This is all it takes to go spy on a dozen members of Congress. Here's another one from the special counsel's office. This guy's Raymond Hulser, now working with Jack Smith. He says, JP and I have reviewed and concur in their request. Penn concurs too. A page and a half. They all just say, they're all smelling each other. Oh, you smell good. This smells real good. Yeah. Look at this great memo Molly wrote. Here, JP and I have reviewed and concur in their request. All happens in one day. Okay. Basically, these are all May 17th emails. Penn concurs. Then someone else. This looks like it's Jack Smith from JLSSC. It's probably Jack Smith, special counsel. He says, why don't you stop by and explain to me what you've done? I don't want to put it in writing, but explain to me how we're going to be spying on these Congress people. And a lot of stuff is happening behind the scenes. He says, stop by. Then he says, okay, we're going to add a new memo. He sends this from Raymond. So they have a little meeting, all of it, off record. Nobody knows what the hell they said there, but we know who they are, partisan hacks. So we know what they were talking about. So then he goes back. He says, this fills the 2 holes we discussed. Oh, gosh. Regarding Senator Sullivan and Graham. What kind of meeting was that? Stop by for what? Anyways, they're filling holes with each other. And then Senator Sullivan and Graham are now going to be included. So they revise the memo again. All on the same day. Says, through this memo, we're now going to authorize these subpoenas. We're adding in a bunch of people. And let's see, we got to track changes. Anything really changed? Not much. It gets a little bit longer. We think a lot of this will be relevant. And there's evidence that other people were talking with the campaign. Boom. 2 holes get filled between Raymond and Jack. And then they send a new memo over. And boom. Jack approves it. Boom. Approved right there. So all of them plus Jack. So 5 plus Jack. And then we get another slight revision. That one comes in from John. Molly sends that to John. And John says, done. Oh, here. Can you please add a line to the summary about the recorded message Sullivan says that he received? Can you please point us to the language in the select committee report about a call to Graham? That's from the RNH fella. Then Molly says, done. I just added it. And then the RNH says, cleared. Thanks for doing it. Then Molly says, thanks. One correction. We're going to get Rick Scott's as well. Not Tim Scott. Okay, it's not Tim. It's Rick. You guys got the wrong Scott, you idiots. The Epstein text uses a number with a Florida area code. Good catch by MLD. Okay, so someone else said, we got the wrong senator. They almost went after Tim Scott. We had nothing to do with any of this. All of them sending these emails. Again, it's like 12:54 before they even have lunch. They've got a full memo approved. And they're just colluding in order to spy on the senators. So they add in that line. And we get some more here, some exchanges. Hey, John, quick update. We just realized that Senator Scott, this other person whose records we should subpoena, is Rick Scott from Florida, not Tim Scott. The email we have refers only to a Senator Scott, but with a Florida area code. I assume this doesn't change anything, but let me know if it does. Like, oops. Nope, it doesn't. The fact that we got the wrong senator doesn't matter. Thanks, Molly. From John Keller. Another one. Add him to the list. Oh, he's the same guy. Team Piss. That's right. So that's what we've got in the emails sent back and forth. So we've identified the other co-conspirators who should be hauled in and asked questions here. And as you can see, it's basically nothing. It's a page and a half, and they're just adding whomever they want to the list, saying, well, since we're not going to charge him, we can just go spy on him. And they're all just bending over backwards to issue these subpoenas. They go over to a corrupt partisan judge like Judge Boasberg or people he's assigned as magistrate judges. Goes over to Verizon. Their counsel doesn't even bat an eye. Says, oh yeah, here are all the records, Jack. And hands them all over. Okay, these people were abusing their office. They should be thoroughly investigated. They ran off and started a little law firm over here. And they say, oh yeah, we're amazing people now. We used to prosecute the bad guys. You see the emails amongst themselves showing that, in my opinion, they are the bad guys. They were the ones who were going after senators because they said that they stole an election based on evidence of phone calls from the president and the president's campaign to other senators and the president's staff to other senators, which they're allowed to do. Supreme Court even said that, but they didn't care. These were people who were running roughshod over their political opponents, and there better be consequences for this. We're happy the DOJ released the records, but we want consequences for the people who abused their office. They charged Trump with a conspiracy against rights crime. That's exactly what this is. So hopefully Pam Bondi and the rest of them are working on bringing these charges soon. Now, while all that was going on, we also saw that CBS News is exonerating a pipe bomb suspect. And this is just a wild situation. A lot of people talking about who this alleged pipe bomber was. A name was floating around here. We talked about the story from The Blaze. But apparently, she's in the clear. Don't worry about it at all. Do you know how we know? A lot of video footage of this person walking around, but the person we suspected it to be, we were wrong. CBS explains it very clearly. Name was cleared because they got sent a video of her playing with her puppies at the time the devices were placed. Are you the pipe bomber? Me? No. Look, here's a video of me playing with my puppies, multiple puppies. Wow, that's amazing. You were playing with puppies, and that's really sympathetic. So you're definitely not the pipe bomber because you're playing with your puppies. Yeah. In fact, I had just come from the food shelter, too, where I was feeding the homeless. And on the way home from the homeless shelter, I rescued a whole family of kittens who were on the side of the road. And then I pulled over in the rain and helped a little old lady cross the street before I played with my puppies. We're like, oh, gosh. We believe you, definitely. The FBI has now ruled her out as a suspect in the plot, according to 3 sources. But only after all of us were talking about her. How an innocent woman's name came to be linked. This is very curious here. So she was playing with her puppies. The video, obviously real. She's got these puppies here. It's like, no, January 6th or January 5th. There's yours. We were frolicking in a dewy meadow. CBS News is not naming her. Multiple sources said that a unit that was overseen, so this is more. It's not, this is got government backing here. Says multiple sources said that a unit overseen by Tulsi Gabbard within the Director of National Intelligence, the ODNI, somebody in the government, not the Blaze, drafted a memo identifying her and describing allegations that she had placed the device outside the RNC and the DNC office. The memo was written after the ODNI was made aware of allegations from an outside source. Don't know who that was. Was that outside source the Blaze? Or was that outside source an FBI agent? A whistleblower? Because that timing matters. Okay, if the Blaze notified DNI and then they wrote a memo, then you'd expect that memo to come to a conclusion about their story. But if it's not them, if it's just another outside source, if it's an FBI whistleblower, maybe that same source is the guy who gave it to ODNI and gave it to the Blaze. The Blaze is reporting on some of that. ODNI won't give you a conclusion on that because that's all internal. So the memo was written after somebody notified ODNI about this pipe bomb person. Now, the ODNI official said that the agency received a tip from a person affiliated with a media organization, that sounds like the Blaze, about potential criminal wrongdoing by an individual believed to be working at an intelligence agency, and set about documenting that whole process in a memo. Now, a copy of the unfinished memo was given to senior staff at the security officer's workplace, CIA. It also circulated among a few Trump admin officials, building expectations that the nearly 5-year-old case might be solved. But the memo caught some officials at the FBI, Cash, and the DOJ and the White House off guard. And we've already heard rumors in other stories that Cash is very unhappy with Tulsi. They're screaming at each other, apparently, about other cases. This is the pipe bomb case, but apparently in the Charlie Kirk case, Cash was very upset that Joe Kent was coming over there to investigate foreign ties, remember? And he was screaming at them, saying, this is not your jurisdiction, get out of here. So DNI's onto something. They take it over to Cash, and he's like, what? They're all shocked. ODNI oversees the nation's foreign intelligence gathering and has limited domestic authorities. The FBI is leading the pipe bomb investigation, and they've done a terrible job at it. They've been working on it for years, and nothing has come new. A short time after the unfinished memo began to circulate, the conservative news outlet Blaze then published details similar to those in the draft, including the woman's full name. So again, was the Blaze the source? Then they write the memo. Then the Blaze says, are you guys going to come out with this or not? Because we're publishing. The November 8 Blaze article claimed that it had pinpointed the woman after gate analysis, software matching all of this. Now, Blaze News said that its work had been confirmed by several intelligence sources, probably at DNI. Several sources told CBS News that the classified draft memo, which was on ODNI letterhead, was written by Paul McNamara, who is in charge of Gabbard's Directors Initiatives Group, which is tasked with providing transparency and accountability and executing Trump's intelligence-related orders. McNamara could not be reached for comment. Now, a spokesperson, Olivia Coleman, said ODNI followed its obligation to report information received concerning the alleged activities as a member of the IC to that person's employing agency. This person is now working over at the CIA. And we have said, why are these agencies not coming out and defending, first of all, their agency? If the allegation is that a Capitol Hill officer was responsible for dropping these pipe bombs off, wouldn't it behoove the Capitol Police to come out and say, that's ridiculous? Our agents would never act outside of, lawful operations, and we investigated ourselves. There were no training exercises that were in place that day. And we stand by all of our employees, including this woman who was working for us at the time. Smash it, get rid of it. Nobody's done that. FBI hasn't even come out unequivocally. And then there are people criticizing others for trying to find answers on this, which is crazy because the FBI put out a $500,000 donation and said, can you please help us? We're incompetent. We can't find this person. And records of the cell phone devices all got deleted and corrupted. They say after a whistleblower, okay, this is what ODNI says. After a whistleblower came forward with an allegation, because that does not sound like media, okay, that sounds like somebody in the government, came forward with an allegation, ODNI documented the accusation and lawfully reported it, fulfilling our legal duty to alert appropriate agencies when an alleged potential security concern is brought to our attention. There were no predetermined conclusions or assessments made, and every action taken was done so in consultation with legal counsel. So who is the whistleblower? So now we're trying to find this chain of custody of this information. Did it go from the Blaze to DNI? Then we get a memo. Did it go from another media to DNI? Then we get a memo. Did it go from a whistleblower who's not in the media, who's a government agent, to DNI that led to the memo? And in that process, did the Blaze independently come to that same conclusion and also call to get a response from ODNI? So do we have a whistleblower and an independent media investigation, or is it just the media? Now, the Blaze report became the subject of a lot of coverage. We talked about it here. Word of this supposed break in the case reached Mr. Trump, the president. Two of the sources said, but it's unclear how he learned about it. The bomb planting incident is one of the lingering mysteries. Nearly 5 years after this happened, no suspect arrested or identified. No, and they couldn't even get the cell phone records because they were corrupted. Stephen D'Antuono, FBI. The FBI said the bombs were viable, but they did not detonate. CBS News was not shown the memo, so they didn't see any of it. But sources said McNamara, the guy who wrote the DNI memo, had accessed confidential files to obtain details about the woman for the draft memo, including her workplace and more. Gabbard, the top ODNI official, has since distanced herself from the memo, telling senior officials that information spread without her knowledge while she was traveling abroad. Do you not have the internet when you're traveling abroad? Is that something that's new? An ODNI official also said the draft memo hadn't been reviewed or approved by agency leadership. Sources said this situation and others were viewed internally by some senior admin officials as interfering. Okay, so FBI is saying, get out of here in the purview of our office. Axios also reported in September that officials believe that ODNI had hindered their case against John Brennan. So there is no case against John Brennan. He hasn't been charged with anything yet. And the Comey prosecution just got dismissed. So what is the DOJ so upset about? The New York Times office in October reported that ODNI had accessed FBI files related to Charlie Kirk, and they searched for evidence of foreign conspiracies, and Cash flipped out about it. And I got to tell you, we've had, I think, more success with Tulsi than we have had with the other agencies. She released a lot of good information quickly. We were expecting those Obama emails and the Brennan emails and all these things to get sent over to the DOJ and the FBI so they could do something with them. Maybe they are. But is that what they're saying? They're mad that Tulsi released emails and that might have impacted the John Brennan case? They barely got the James Comey case filed in time after Trump screamed at Pam. Federal security officer cooperated with the FBI. Sources close to the matter said, so the woman, her lawyer publicly said she did nothing wrong, which again could be if she thought she was doing a training exercise and was told and ordered by her superiors to go do this. Both the women and her lawyer declined to comment. She returned to work after being placed on a brief leave. An FBI spokesperson and representative for Blaze News didn't respond. Blaze News updated its story with a correction. But FBI says we're going to continue to pursue our leads. And we're sure they're working real hard on it. So, okay, that's what's out there. This woman has an alibi. She was playing with her puppies after working at a homeless shelter, feeding homeless people, rescuing kittens, and helping little old ladies cross the street. She went home and played with her pups. So there's no way that she was there at all. And apparently the story gets deeper. It's not just like the Blaze wrote an article and it's some blogger somewhere who just like vomited some thesis out of their head and dumped it on the internet. ODNI wrote a whole memo about it, apparently. And the FBI is like, what are you doing? Get out of here. We don't want your help. We're doing a great job, even though they're not. So we'll see what comes next. But apparently that's the alibi. So you can take it or leave it. And we'll wait for more to come out on that. But I'm suspecting, and it's just speculation, that the Blaze has more evidence than they've released. I think that they probably have a lot of the gate analysis, the video, the data. I'm not sure why they haven't released it yet, but I imagine they've got it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have published a story like that. But Of course, we'll see what comes down later. I think that part of the strategy is you slowly drip these things out. You say, hey, we've got a conclusion on this, FBI. What's your comment? FBI says, your conclusion is wrong. We say, oh, that's interesting. Now let us show you the math, right? It's like you submit, it's like a math exam. You get the answer right, but got to show your work. Of course, we all want to see the work. But you want to give the answer to the other side to say, you're wrong. We're still working on this. It's an open investigation. And then you say, here's how we got to this. And they go, oh. So you kind of want to get them, to hang themselves, so to speak, hoisted by their own petards if you can. So we'll see what comes next from the Blaze. But that's the latest. And meanwhile, the president was asked about all this. Obviously, a little bit of a difficult week. There was a lot of air let out of the lungs when we saw that the dismissals came down in the Comey and Letitia James case. We saw Lindsay Halligan, of course, was disqualified. We think it's coming back. I can't imagine that the Supreme Courts and the higher level courts say that the executive branch is completely divested of appointment power after 120 days. Like there's some exception in the Constitution that says, no more Article 2 powers after 120 days. Now it's Article 3. We get to control that whole process. Didn't read that in the law anywhere. So ultimately, I think that those are coming back. But here was the president being asked about this on Air Force One, heading down for the holiday.
Are you planning to replace Cash Patel as
No, he's doing a good job.
This week,
Cash Patel? No, he's doing a great job, I think.
This week we saw those cases against James Comey and Letitia James tossed out. Do you still have faith in Lindsay Halligan?
Oh, she's great. I think she's great. They got out on a technicality, and you'll see what happens from here on. But if you look at the actual charges, I think anybody that looks at it very fairly would say, boy, are they guilty. So let's see what happens over the next week. The court didn't say you couldn't bring the case, re-bring the case, or appeal the case. So they have a lot of options. They're going to call the shot. I'm not calling the shot. But Lindsay's a very talented lawyer, actually.
Yeah, and we've not blamed Lindsay at all here. She got thrown into the fire. If we're upset with anybody, it's that we didn't have a leadership change over there in the Eastern District much sooner, right? That's kind of a Pam Bondi decision. Eric Siebert and these investigations that are all percolating, right? Pam Bondi comes in. She's got, 50,000 cases that are now under her desk across the entire, DOJ. But you have a list of 10 high priority cases or 100 high priority cases. Who are these criminal defendants that we're working on that we know tried to steal the prior elections, tried to institute a coup with Comey and Brennan, and did steal it in 2020? All the Obama people, all the emails, you put those as high priority. Where are these coming from? Eastern District, big bunch of them over here in this one district. Okay, who's running that? Oh, Eric Siebert. I'd like to talk to him. Okay, where are we at on these things? All right, I want answers in 30 days. Pam Bondi comes in. 30 days, what's the update? At that moment, you'll know. Okay, I want a charging decision brought by this time schedule on these things, and you schedule it out. And you don't have to wait 5 days before the statute of limitations expires and gets screamed at by the president until Lindsay Halligan comes in and gets appointed. Because then you could have had enough time to get some other attorneys in the grand jury room with her, and you could have fixed some of these errors. But again, to be fair, we were going to have this battle anyways. It's a bummer that it happened to happen on the Comey and the Letitia James case, but the executive is going to have to assert its rights to its appointment powers and the ability to select their own U.S. attorneys. And so we're going to keep our eye in Virginia and other locations. But as you can see, all of these people, 5 plus Jack Smith, they approved spying on a group of Republicans based on the flimsiest of flimsy materials. Some phone calls from the president on or around January 6th, which are all immunized. He's allowed to make phone calls, but they said it was criminal. They got corrupt judges like Boasberg to approve the subpoenas. Verizon, scum company, didn't even fight back at all. And the weaponized DOJ marched forward and attacked Republicans top to bottom. So Congress now upset about it. They're all tagging each other on X. Base Mike Lee says we're going to have hearings. All of them now being tagged. And hopefully all of them do their constitutional duties as congresspeople and hold hearings to impeach the judges who approve these and to get these other co-conspirators on the record, haul them in, just like the Liz Cheney goons did, ask them questions. If they don't comply, that's contempt and criminal charges. If they come in and lie through their teeth, they get charged with lying to Congress. And if we get the truth, then they've just incriminated themselves because we know that they were acting like criminals. They charged Trump with a conspiracy against rights. They went after top to bottom Republicans in multiple states across the union. Now it's time to repay that favor because, as they told us for years, no one is above the law. And now their chickens are coming home to roost. All right, now, my friends, good stuff on that one. Let's turn our attention to some more emails because we got some other good stuff coming in. Dozens of emails now released on the Epstein saga. This guy's name is Jason Leopold. He's a journalist over for Bloomberg, and he sent a FOIA request into the DOJ and the FBI. He says, look, I'd like to know how you guys are communicating about the release of the Epstein files. And we got some interesting things that dropped. You can see a whole list of emails. It's 71 pages in total, but a lot of it, as per usual, redacted. Not going to be able to see it. You got a bunch of the listings of the redactions that are inside this document, but as you scroll through, lots of redactions. But there are some juicy bits in here, including exactly how much evidence they gobbled up after Epstein killed himself. Terabytes of data. Dozens and dozens of different camera angles all gobbled up, and they were working hard. Lots of overtime. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through all these records. And then we learned that there was nothing there. Pam Bondi came out, released a message, 2-page memo. No one's getting charged. Kash Patel showed up in Congress. Hey, Kash, anybody else going to be charged? No. There is no evidence, which makes it really difficult if you decide that you want to go charge somebody. Okay, this is why we were so upset about Pam's memo and Kash's testimony, is because if they come out and they say, we have no evidence at all, and then you turn around and you say, look at all this evidence. The first argument the defense is going to make is, well, it's now politicized. You were ordered by somebody to go find it. You found evidence, like show me the man, I'll show you the crime kind of situation. And it's all, made up. It's invalid. And the DOJ and the FBI, both of them, already completed investigations, and they wrote in writing, in memos, and under oath. Nobody else should be charged. So what changed? And any defendant is going to make that argument. So you're actually kind of helping them. In our opinion, it would have been better for them to just not say anything than to come out and say there's no evidence at all. But here we are. So apparently they were working their butts off. Before we were told there is no Epstein stuff, there were a lot of people working on getting us the Epstein stuff. And the article's great. He put it together over from Bloomberg, and he went through a lot of the files. He says, the records that I got reveal the number of hours that the FBI devoted to going through the Epstein files. And they even spent $851,000 in overtime working on the files. The emails show that they created an entire project. They called it the Epstein Transparency Project, and we were excited about it. Remember this? The influencers came out with the binders, and everybody was so happy about that, so excited for them. And that was definitely a good move, too, by the administration, too, to hang all those influencers out to dry. Here you go, I have a binder. And then they walk out and like, actually, there's no evidence coming out in addition to that. And it was, what? So the training also had PowerPoint slides. FBI personnel were just scrambling all over the place to get these documents. And so this guy has released the emails, and we appreciate him doing that. His name is Jason Leopold. Dropped these yesterday. Said, we submitted a FOIA, and they've got a ton of data. They went through multiple phases of trying to unpack all of this. FBI Director Kash also ordered 1,000 special agents to team up and prepare the files for public release. That's crazy. 1,000 special agents working on this. And then nothing. The army of agents from New York and Washington, along with FOIA officers, were instructed on how to review and apply redactions. Over the summer, Jason says, I filed a wide-ranging FOIA request for those directives, as well as communications between agency personnel pertaining to their review of the files and the taxpayer dollars spent on this marathon 2-month process, which we all thought we were going to get something out of. Remember? Then he sued the FBI to compel the release of the documents. So they didn't voluntarily just hand this over. Now, just this morning, he says, I got the partially redacted records from the FBI, mostly emails that provide a behind the scenes look as agents and other FBI people started to work on this. They withheld more than 161 pages, citing ongoing law enforcement proceedings and other FOIA exemptions, I'm sure. What are the ongoing law enforcement proceedings if nobody's going to be charged? Don't know. Now, the email reveals the special training that was given to them. And in some instances, they also worked on they called it the Special Redaction Project, because that's all we're doing is just going through the files and redacting everything. The records that he got reveals the number of hours that they devoted on this, lots of time. And they went through a bunch of various components of the investigation. Let's take a look at the files themselves. 71 pages, this one going over from the FBI, the DOJ, over to Bloomberg News, saying, hey, Jason, the FBI has completed its final review of your FOIA request. We're giving you some information, but you're going to have a lot of redactions for all of these reasons. Now, we reviewed 220 pages, and we're giving you 61 of them. Okay, so not much coming your way, but you're getting something. Based on the info you provided, we conducted a search, and there are no fees. So enjoy. Now, please refer to the addendum. There's part 1 and part 2 and part 3, and we explain our exemptions and why you're not getting certain things. Signed off here by Nappy. Amy Nappy or something. So some standard form stuff here in the FOIA about what they do, explanation of the exemption. So every time we see, for example, B6, they say, well, these are personal and medical files. And this is for we don't want to give you this record because it might be compromising of their privacy. Okay. So all the redactions, they explain what they're withholding, all of this, B5-1, B3, B2, B5-3s, ongoing investigations, B3-8s, lots of reasons. Okay, so some reason you can make it up. You're not getting it. They give us these now. And these are newer emails. These are 2025. Okay, so this is coming from Trump's DOJ and FBI. Some emails back and forth from Shannon sent over to Leslie. Leslie and Chad, good talking with you yesterday. IMD is happy to support you. I wanted to share the below and seek guidance from the GC on the types of redactions to apply to these documents so we can start processing these. What do we have to delete? Redacted, redacted. Regardless, we're here and we're ready. Probably like complaining. It's a lot of files, a lot of redactions, like Congress people, lots of sort of. So anyways, we're here and we're ready regardless of all this crap. Looking forward to welcoming the New York and the Washington field office to Winchester today. All these agents coming in to help. More. Sam, please see attached. I was in a meeting today with the Criminal Division, New York and Washington field office, and there were questions on the types of redactions the FBI should apply here. Redacted or redacted. Now, once we nail that down, we're ready to help. We're prepared to receive boxes tomorrow as New York agents are traveling to Washington this morning and are going to be in Winchester, where they're going to start photographing and we're going to start scanning and processing the physical files. Once I see the volume, I'll have a better estimate of processing time, although I suggest we do a rolling delivery to further demonstrate the FBI's commitment to transparency and delivery. Yeah, that's what we were excited about. Thank you, Shannon. Tomorrow, I'll have a recap of historic FOIA cases. Call me anytime. Thank you, Shannon. She's over with information management. Now, hi, Sam. Here's another one from Sherry. Says, Information Management Division, IMD, is working on getting a clean copy of the redaction list. In the meantime, here's another explanation of the FOIA exemptions. Now, the numbers below about litigation and FOIAs reflect a conversation with the Office of the General Counsel today. We can confirm those numbers regarding FOIA requests involving Epstein and Maxwell. Now, I've also added Perry here, as we're going to be digitizing a lot of these documents, and we're working on it now. More emails back and forth, copying you, looking to get a clean copy of the rules on what we're doing. So here we go, all this being redacted. This looks like a table of some instructions here. Another one, email comes in, who at HQ, all redacted. And some more emails come through. Shannon. Let's start this chain down here. Hi, Shannon. Great speaking with you. Just following up on your email. All Epstein-related image and video review has been completed. Whoa. Here's what we've got. This review was completed and summarized. We've got images, non-responsive data, all of the evidence processed. Some were not reviewed. We would need a new search warrant for those. But we've got FBI log files and more. Here's what we've got in a summary. We've got 31E FBI search warrant execution photos are logged. This is redacted, don't know. FBI interview videos chronicled. Maxwell prison security footage chronicled. Time-lapse video footage from an office. No person identified, no crimes observed. Wonder whose office that was. Street surveillance footage. No person identified, no crimes observed. Aerial footage from when the FBI executed the search warrant. Police interview videos, marketing videos, no outstanding reviews on that. Now look at this. We've got a cart download of something, all redacted, and this is related to the Epstein suicide investigation. So we've got a download of some materials, and then we've got the jail footage. Look at all this data. 147 cameras in the jail, 8 terabytes of data that were active before and after Epstein was found dead. Each video is 24 hours long. The cameras were stationed all over the prison at various locations and angles. They did not capture anything significant related to the suicide, since the cameras in the special housing unit where Epstein was located were not active at the time. Oh no. 147 cameras. They were all working, except the cameras in Epstein's shoe, his special housing unit. Oh, isn't that terrible? Don't you hate when that happens? What happened? Thank you, Leslie. Any chance there was a document summarizing the 1A material in finer detail? Justin, did you get anything on that? Also, did you happen to send the results to HQ or to the DOJ? If not, no worries. Just want to confirm. What did you deliver to Pam? Thank you, Shannon. We definitely did not provide anything to the DOJ, just to the FBI. I doubt, as we have more 1As in more specificity, the descriptions are listed, but we'll check. Okay, call whenever you're on the road. So Pam in April had not gotten sent anything, according to these emails. Now, can you let me know on what you guys are working on? Please send me all of that. She gave us the update. And those are those emails. Then we have another one. May 2nd. So we're going further in time. This email comes in. It says, hey, bosses, names redacted. Leslie sent to Leslie, she's one of them. All of these other FBI agents still there, presumably. Hey, bosses, please see the FBI New York draft response. For Section 3 of the timeline, I cannot be absolutely certain what all was provided to the DOJ. I included all information provided by C20 up the chain. I highlighted those terms I knew had been provided to the DOJ because I was in direct contact or was told specifically to do that. I believe Section 4 would be best filled in by other people. I already explained that. The only thing missing is our contribution at IMD as well as CID, if they have anything to add. I would suggest that our draft be sent to the appropriate HQ entities so they can add to this document as necessary. And you can see Epstein overview final. They're all working on a memo to pass back up the chain. Here's another one. Somebody says, Leslie, email 8. Hey, morning, somebody. Keep missing you on Skype. Justin, he's acting assistant director at the IMD, Information Management. Justin says, hey, somebody, redacted. Morning. I keep missing you on Skype. Need your help on 2 questions related to Epstein. Attached is a media summary we put together back in March in response to the question of what media was related to the Epstein cases. Here are our questions. Did New York review 7 videos and 5 audio files in this material? Is there any inventory of these other files? Note the chart only lists these materials, but does this other material exist? That message goes out, and of course, no response there. Now, here is where we get the calculation of the overtime. Total overtime hours, 4,737 hours, which is almost $1 million. So lots of effort was spent on it. Here are some more emails. March 22nd, redacted, more redacted over there. Here's some more short-term redactions, shifts, unclassified. Looks like these are people maybe filling out their time cards. Some FBI agent named right there. More redacted pages, and we just keep going and going and going. IMD project updates. And let's see, we're trying to mine for gold over here. See if there's anything good inside here. Talking about training, how to use SharePoint, messaging updates. Man, I'll tell you what, if this is the type of documentation we get from our FBI and our DOJ, this is just amazing, isn't it? Look at all this information that we're learning here. Wow, release the Epstein files. Can't wait to read a lot more documents that look just like this. Perfect. So, okay, here, as we keep scrolling, let's see more short-term stuff, project updates, all redacted, lots of scrolling here. But just showing you what is inside what our DOJ and FBI are providing. And last names, bunch of people working on it. Says, thank you for your support and rallying together to accomplish the mission. As of 2/36, phase 2 was 75% complete. We're going to give all documents and all redactions complete. We will communicate when all redactions are complete. Thank you for your efforts. And those are the files. Now, he had a couple of other good screenshots here. 147 cameras, 8 terabytes of data. And this was an interesting one that I think we just scrolled on by. But here's an email on April 15th saying Kash Patel has asked for a status of all remaining Epstein-related reviews. The director. We're working on it. He wants to know what the latest is. Other emails that we read through. So I think maybe the big ones are, the big takeaway is that they were working really hard on this. They had $800,000 of overtime expended and 300 gigabytes of data, terabytes of jail footage, and a lot more is in the file. And 1,000 FBI special agents worked on this. And then they came out and said that there was nothing there. What a weird thing. Now, apparently, there is something there. So they were working hard on it. They've got a lot of redactions in place. But here is what Kash Patel said about this when he was on with Catherine Herridge earlier this week, saying, are there going to be more charges to come? Kash has already said that there will not be more charges based on the evidence that they've gotten. But have they gotten new evidence? Did new stuff appear in burn bags? Did we get more from the Epstein estate in the Virgin Islands? Does a subpoena into Stacey Plaskett's email reveal anything new? Maybe they should go get one. But here's what Kash said about Epstein.
The Epstein Files Transparency Act has a very tight deadline, 30 days to produce unclassified records. Will the FBI meet the 30-day deadline?
Well, we are working with our partners at the Department of Justice to produce, as we've always committed to producing, what we can lawfully, legally produce. And we will continue to meet those metrics, reminding the public that there are court orders in place, protective orders, and orders to seal in place that legally prohibit the disclosure of information related to any investigation when there's a court order of that fashion. So we're working with DOJ to say if we can produce anything more.
As FBI director, will you commit to as few blacked out sections or redactions as possible?
We always do. We have in our productions to Congress, which have been historic to this year, and we'll treat every matter in the same fashion while also upholding always victims' rights. victims' rights in any case, whether it's President Trump's case, this case, or any case, the victims' rights statutes are preeminent, and we will protect those victims at all costs.
President Trump told your boss, Attorney General Pam Bondi, to look into the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Democrats, including former President Bill Clinton. Is the probe limited to Democrats, or will you follow the facts wherever they lead?
We'll just follow the facts. It's pretty simple for this FBI.
So more charges are possible in the Epstein case?
Based on the new referral, we'll take a look at that and see what evidence comes. But there's an important distinction. The information that the government possesses versus the information that the Epstein estate possesses. Those are two separate boxes of information. And the Epstein estate has not been willing to share information with the U.S. government. And so even though we've requested them to do so.
Oh, the poor government made a request to the Epstein estate, and they said, no, get out of here. And so our federal government's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess that's case closed for us. You're the federal government. You can go get a subpoena for those records and go get them instantly. In fact, before Cash and Pam came out and said that there wasn't anyone else to prosecute, wouldn't it behoove them to go get those records before they come out and say unequivocally that there is no there? But you can see exactly what he's doing. He's trying to immunize himself for his prior positions. No, there's a whole bunch of new evidence out there. And maybe once the Epstein estate gives it to us, then we can figure out what to do. Well, you're prosecutors. Do you know what powers you have? Well, they're called subpoenas and grand juries. And so just like Jack Smith went after senators' cell phone records, maybe you could have gone after the Epstein estate records. And the Epstein estate records are also being handed over to Congress. How? Because Congress sent them subpoenas. But they're going to make this, oh, wow, all of a sudden we discovered a new tranche of evidence. Why didn't you go get that in the first place? Because they didn't want to. They wanted to just bundle this up and move on. And now the people have not let them do that. So we'll see what Cash ultimately does on this. We're not optimistic. Remember, just to get these files, Bloomberg had to sue. And then when we got them, they gave us a third of the files that were requested. And then of the files that we got, they're all redacted. And they were working on this with 1,000 FBI agents spending $1 million of overtime. We know there's a there, and this is becoming difficult to tolerate when they keep promising us stuff that doesn't even make any logical consistency. We're going to look at a new referral. Was there a new Epstein referral, or are you talking about the Epstein Act? And it's really hard for you to go get evidence of crimes because the Epstein estate won't give it to you. Your job is to go get the evidence. So, all right, we'll see. Anyways, that's Cash Patel. That's the Epstein emails. Some juiciness in there, lots of evidence, and they spent a lot of time on it, which is a strange thing to do if there is no there. So hopefully this is starting to be a wake-up call for them. And once more records are released, we hope we can actually read them and not have redactions top to bottom. All right. Now, my friends, let's talk about Derek Chauvin. Remember this fella? Rotting away in prison because he was scapegoated by our insane media and court system. Well, we've got a new filing that is a doozy. So let's get right to it. Derek Chauvin is back, now demanding the courts review his case, submitting a petition for post-conviction relief, saying that everything he did in the George Floyd incident was valid, backed up by law enforcement training and technique, that he was scapegoated by a corrupt media and a court system that was all too eager to satiate the mob that was rioting all across the country in the middle of an election season. And Derek Chauvin, of course, in prison for a long sentence, already tried to appeal his case, has not found success there, and is now trying a different tact. This is called a petition for post-conviction relief. And you can see in the case of Derek Chauvin, he's sending this one in to Hennepin County. And we covered this trial at length here. We know that George Floyd, in our opinion, died because of all sorts of heart problems and drug problems, including the fact that he had arterial sclerosis and hypertension in his heart, combined with a whole slew of drugs, including meth and others, that were in his body at the time he died, caused his heart to fail. We had an expert witness, the state's own coroner, testify to that fact in trial. But they still said, no, it was the knee on his neck, even though George Floyd looked like he had a pill on his tongue, was, as he was being arrested, indicating he was ingesting drugs, and was also complaining about not being able to breathe when he was in the back of the police car before he was even on the ground at all. But now where we're at is post-conviction relief. So this is a process that will enable you to reopen your case even after you've been convicted if you discover something new or novel that's relevant that maybe you didn't know at the time. One example could be that a cop is later busted for falsifying evidence. Okay, you get convicted, you go to jail, 5 years go by, you learn, oh, that cop falsified a bunch of evidence, may have falsified evidence in my trial. That cop's going to jail. We want to reopen our case, make the claim that we were a victim of him. You can't do that through an appeal. Clock has already expired on that. So now what is your other mechanism? Post-conviction. And here is what Chauvin says in a 71-page burner that hopefully catches some attention over there. They say, back on April 20th, 2021, Chauvin was convicted of unintentional second-degree murder of George Floyd, 270 months in prison, and filed a notice of appeal. He said, first of all, that lower-level judge abused its discretion. We should have had a change of venue for the trial, but he denied it. And just to be clear, remember Derek Chauvin? How he was basically convicted in front of all of us, all those cops were. We had everybody every day replaying videos, had comedians doing whole skits about it. It was a never-ending onslaught of media propaganda. And nobody was saying that you can't talk about those images or that Derek Chauvin's public likeness needed to be protected, which is what they're saying about Tyler Robinson, the guy who allegedly shot and killed Charlie Kirk. For some reason, no videos of him, no footage allowed to be shown of him. They want to keep the media cameras out of the courtroom because they're so concerned about pretrial publicity and how it might jeopardize a fair trial. How come Derek Chauvin didn't get those same benefits and protections? How come Kyle Rittenhouse didn't get any of those? So spare me. The district court abused its discretion. They didn't continue the trial, and they just charged him right in the middle of the hellhole where they were burning down their cities. The district court abused its discretion. It didn't sequester the jury throughout the trial, so the jurors got beaten on by the media propaganda. The state committed prosecutorial misconduct. The district court erred when it concluded that the testimony of Maurice Hall did not fall under Rule 804B. In other words, it was too prejudicial. Erred when permitting the state to present cumulative evidence with respect to the use of force, just over and over and over. Knee on the neck, knee on the neck, knee on the neck. Abused its discretion when the state was ordered to lead witnesses on direct examination. Judge screwed up when it failed to make an official record of the numerous sidebar conferences. Abused its discretion, the judge, when it failed to allow Chauvin to exercise for-cause strikes for clearly biased jurors. Abused its discretion when the state could amend its complaint. They added the third-degree murder charge, just shoved it in. The district court abused its discretion when it limited and undercut George Floyd's May arrest. Also, submitted bad jury instructions and denied our request for certain hearings and more. Huge list of problems. We have 2 years that are required to bring this, and we're doing it now. Here's what they explain. In the spring of 2020, a bystander video depicting a police encounter was posted to Facebook. We remember. The events captured on the video, viewed millions of times across the world, 4 cops about George Floyd outside Minneapolis. The footage includes Derek Chauvin cooperating with other officers to restrain Floyd, who is freaking out, in a prone position using a knee-to-neck restraint in connection with the MRT. It's called a maximal restraint technique, and that's a tactic that was trained, authorized, and consistent with policy at the time. The technique, also referred to as the hobble, involved placing the left knee at various times on Floyd's upper back or neck area, while other officers, Lane and Kung, restrained his midsection as they awaited paramedics to arrive. Floyd died during the encounter. Now, the state came out and said Chauvin killed Floyd by asphyxiating him, suffocating him while he was on the ground, being restrained. They charged him with 3 offenses: unintentional murder and other crimes, manslaughter, third-degree murder. After a trial in court, Chauvin convicted all 3. He was sentenced on the top of the second count, and the judge made an upward departure from the guidelines, okay? In other words, sentenced him to a harsher penalty than you might expect. Now, State versus Chauvin changed the fabric of the state of Minnesota. The jury rendered its verdict amid widespread protests when they were burning down cities all over America. There was international media attention, the COVID-19 pandemic, which George Floyd had, and ever-present armed security, and of course the video, right? Chauvin was doomed from the beginning. 5 years later, this case simply never made sense. None of the officers here, including Chauvin, appeared to realize that a criminal act had been committed at all. Few murders take place before a crowd of witnesses while talking with emergency personnel over the radio. But what truly sets this case apart was that in most cases, the opposing sides argue about the facts and whether there is room for reasonable doubt. But in this case, video and still frames told a single story. This case resolved around 2 issues. One was about intent. Was the restraint of George Floyd consistent with police policy? And 2, causation. Did they actually cause his death? We're going to focus on these 2 issues in this memo. How the prosecution presented false testimony in violation of the law, and how the state's medical witnesses convinced the jury that Floyd died of asphyxia, while the Hennepin County medical examiner said no, it wasn't asphyxiation. His heart just gave out. Now, while the post-conviction relief stage in many criminal cases is generally something of an afterthought, this court is removed from the hysteria of that day and can finally look at the facts through a clear lens. It is the first time a judicial officer can view the case without the pressure of the public mood. More than anything, this case illustrates the incredible persuasive power of video evidence and how it can be misused, and it also demonstrates the powerful effect of false testimony on the judicial process. Now, they say Derek Chauvin was deprived of his constitutional rights. He deserves a new trial, or at the very minimum, a new evidentiary hearing. Now, here are more facts. Chauvin adopts the facts in a light most favorable to the verdict as found by the Court of Appeals, with the exception of 2 sentences. Now, the encounter between Floyd lasted less than 20 minutes on that day. Officers responded to Cup Foods in South Minneapolis. George Floyd was trying to pass off a counterfeit $20 bill and steal. Cops showed up. 2 officers approached a blue Mercedes-Benz outside the store. They found Floyd behind the wheel. Almost immediately, they relayed that they thought that he was high, under the influences of drugs. Officer Lane approached the vehicle, said, "Hey, this is why we're here." Floyd refused to exit the vehicle. Lane drew his firearm and demanded he exit. Floyd continued to refuse. Lane replaced his firearm and then prepared to physically remove him. At this point, a physical struggle lasting 45 seconds ensued. Officer Kung noted the difficulty of Lane in getting Floyd subdued. He ran over to help. It took both men to successfully wrestle Floyd out of the car and secure his hands behind his back. Once handcuffed, Kung waited with Floyd on the sidewalk while Lane gathered information, and then Floyd was led to Squad 320. As the 3 approached Squad 320, Floyd became progressively and visibly more agitated while he shouted at the officers and breathed more heavily. Another physical struggle ensued while Floyd refused to be placed in the rear of the vehicle. Officers Chauvin and Thao, who had arrived moments earlier, approached the vehicle to assist the other two. For roughly a minute and a half, a full-blown wrestling match ensued. 3 officers had to work together to bring him through the back of the vehicle and onto the ground. Floyd began saying he could not breathe while in the rear of the car. Said that over and over. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And he was not being pinned on anything. No one was on him. Floyd continued to resist physically. He kicked Chauvin's body-worn camera off his chest. 3 officers were ultimately successful in bringing Floyd through the rear of the vehicle and onto the street. Then 3 of them cooperated to restrain him while Thao managed the growing crowd. In executing their restraint tactic, Chauvin placed his left knee on Floyd's back, upper back, or neck area, depending on the perspective of the video. His right knee was primarily on Floyd's left arm. While Officer Kung restrained Floyd's upper legs and butt, and Lane controlled his legs to restrict his ability to kick, they locked him down. Now, as seen in the video, Chauvin's position did not substantially change for the entirety of the application. They awaited for the cops to come up. Now, fire and paramedics were initially dispatched under Code 2. Officers had concerns that Floyd had suffered a mouth injury and was under the influence of drugs. The officers upgraded the urgency to Code 3. They said, "We need immediate assistance." The video evidence revealed that Floyd was held in place for more than 9 minutes while Thao controlled the crowd. The placement of Chauvin's left knee remained consistent, as did the positions of 2 other officers as they continued their restraint. Now, the jury was told at trial by the state, the prosecutor's expert witnesses, that the video reflected Floyd's death at 20:24:53. At 8:27 p.m., paramedics finally arrived to transport Floyd to the hospital. They were unable to detect a pulse when they arrived, and they began care in the ambulance. Floyd then arrived at the hospital, 8:53 p.m. 2 doctors attended to him, Ashley Strobel, Bradford Langenfield. Strobel was the supervising position. Langen just got his license to practice that same month. Dr. Strobel, Ashley, was directly supervising Dr. Langenfield, and he provided aid to Floyd. Now, at trial, Ashley, the doctor, explained that the procedures that he undertook, so it's a dude, I guess, while attending to Floyd in the emergency room. And his conclusion, he said Floyd was in cardiac arrest when he came to the hospital. He examined Floyd's abdomen via ultrasound, noted no evidence of hemorrhage, no obvious significant external trauma that would have led to any bleeding. He explained that cardiac arrest could be induced by several things, including drugs. Yeah. Specifically, he told the jury that fentanyl, methamphetamine, or a combo of both could cause cardiac arrest. But at the time he rendered care to Floyd, he didn't know about any drugs. After 30 minutes in the emergency room, he pronounced Floyd dead. Strobel and Langenfield, the doctors, they came to the same conclusions at the hospital, that cardiac arrest and acidosis are potential causes of death, and they identified severe agitation that could cause cardiac arrest, like wrestling with 3 cops in the back of a car. They agreed that the mechanism that caused his death was unknown. Now, prosecutors met separately with each physician before the trial. Each was shown the entirety of the videos during their meetings with the state. At the time he examined Floyd, Langenfeld had not seen the video. After being shown the video, he stated that what he witnessed in the video is the knee decreasing air and oxygen that killed him. Ashley, though, the other doctor, stated, "Well, I can't determine the cause of death from watching the video." What happened? They brought in the new doctor, Langenfeld, the brand new guy who just got his license that month. He comes in. He told the jury, saying, "Well, I saw the videos and I agree that cardiac arrest and death by asphyxia was one of the more likely possibilities." So 2 doctors examined Floyd the night of his hospital arrival. The new guy says probably asphyxia. The experienced doctor says you can't come to that conclusion. They boot her, have the other guy testify. Then we saw this guy, Andrew Baker, who gave great testimony. Dr. Baker performed the autopsy on George Floyd. He told the jury that he was aware that at least one video had gone viral on the internet, but he said, I intentionally chose not to look at it until I had actually examined Floyd. I did not want to bias my exam by going in with any preconceived notions that might lead me down one path or another. Now, I did see the entire video the world saw later that day after Floyd's autopsy. I did not release his body until the following morning, so had I seen something on the video that triggered yet another thought in my mind, I still had a chance to act on it. Baker found no medical evidence, the guy who did the autopsy, supporting the conclusion that he died of asphyxiation. No medical evidence. I don't know what my specific language is, but yes, that is what I conveyed to them, was the lack of anatomical findings that would support that conclusion. Didn't die of asphyxiation. Dr. Baker called the prosecuting attorney assigned to the case, Amy Sweesey, after he finished the autopsy. Amy said, he called me later in the day on that Tuesday, and he told me there were no medical findings that showed any injury to the vital structure of Floyd's neck. There were no medical indications of asphyxia or strangulation. He said to me, Amy, what happens when the actual evidence doesn't match up with the narrative that everyone's already decided on? And then he said, this is the kind of case that ends careers. Or makes them, if you're on the right side. Neither this conversation nor an earlier conversation that took place before the autopsy was performed were even disclosed to the defense. The results of the autopsy showed Floyd suffered from severe heart disease. All medical experts agreed upon that on trial. 75% proximal narrowing of the left anterior descending coronary artery. His tubes were clogged. 75% of the way. 75% mid-narrowing of the left anterior descending coronary artery. 75% narrowing of the first diagonal branch. 90% narrowing of the right artery. Dude's closed, like locked down. He told the jury that he had certified deaths due to atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease under similar conditions, okay? This will kill you. Then when you're fighting 3 cops because you won't comply in the back of a car, it's not a good situation for you when you're also cracked out on drugs. Insofar, like 90%, okay, cannot go through. Try that with anything. Get 90% out of your shower. See how that feels. Insofar as an arrhythmia, Dr. Baker explained, now that's pumping blood to your heart and your body. It's not good. Insofar as arrhythmia, Dr. Baker explained, well, an arrhythmia is an electrical phenomenon. It's not an anatomic one. So I can never really diagnose arrhythmia post-mortem. We have to just infer that the circumstances from the condition of the coronaries. The coroner, he testified that Floyd's heart was also enlarged by weight. And it turns out that the weight of a heart is a very good predictor of whether the heart is normal or not. People who have high blood pressure for a long period of time, their heart will actually get heavier. Now, he also further testified, he said, I did not notice any acute injury to the brain in the physical sense of trauma, nor did I note any injury to his brain in the sense of it being deprived of blood or oxygen, which you would have from asphyxia. Now, Floyd's blood was submitted by Dr. Baker for an expanded panel toxicology screen as part of the death investigation. The results of the test led Dr. Baker to conclude that both fentanyl and methamphetamines were contributing factors in the death of George Floyd, agreeing that he had certified deaths by fentanyl overdose where he had seen levels as low as 3 nanograms per milliliter and possibly lower. Floyd's fentanyl levels were 11 nanograms per milliliter. The coroner said you just need 3 nanograms. Floyd had 11. Ultimately, Dr. Baker's scientific examination led him to conclude that Floyd's death was a multifactorial process. As he explained to the jury on direct exam, and I remember this testimony, it's kind of seared into my brain. I don't know if you remember it. But he was like kind of struggling through it. He's like, he knows that he was giving an answer that was not publicly acceptable, but the guy did it anyway. So cheers for Dr. Baker. Says, okay, so Dr. Baker, testimony. Can you tell us how it is physiologically that the subdual restraint and the neck compression caused Mr. Floyd's death? How it is physiologically that the subdual restraint and the neck compression caused his death? Well, in my opinion, says the coroner, the physiology of what was going on with Mr. Floyd on the evening of May 25th, you've already seen the photographs of his coronary arteries, so you know he had very severe underlying heart disease. I know that we specifically got to it, counselor, but Mr. Floyd also had what we call hypertensive heart disease, meaning his heart weighed more than it should. So he has a heart that already needs more oxygen than a normal heart by virtue of its size, and it's limited in its ability to step up to provide more oxygen when there's demand because of the narrowing of his arteries. Now, in the context of an altercation with other people that involves things like physical restraint, that involves things like being held to the ground, involves things like pain that you would incur from having, your cheek up against the asphalt, an abrasion on your shoulder. Those events are going to cause stress hormones to pour out into your body, specifically things like adrenaline. And what that adrenaline is going to do is it's going to ask your heart to beat faster. It's going to ask your body for more oxygen so that you can get through that altercation. And in my opinion, the law enforcement subdual restraint and neck compression were just more than Mr. Floyd could take by virtue of those heart conditions. Now, Dr. Baker, as the chief medical examiner, is required by law to perform the death investigation. He must furnish to the Department of Health information related to the cause of death. The data that he provided to the state said the cause of death was cardiopulmonary arrest, complicating law enforcement subdual restraint and neck compression as the cause. That was on the death certificate. The manner of death was homicide, Dr. Baker explained. So as a medical examiner, we apply the term homicide when the actions of other people were involved in the death. It's a medical term, not a legal term. Other people were there, he died. Now, I don't even know what the legal standard is, but they're two different worlds. Well, what did you mean by the word complicating? Well, complicating means occurring in the setting of. Okay, so cardiopulmonary arrest occurring in the setting of a law enforcement restraint. Okay. Now, at trial, Dr. Baker was asked to opine on the video and the deployment of the knee on the neck. He said, so, in my impression from the video, I want to be very clear. I have no special expertise in looking at videos. I'm just looking at them as another person trying to figure out what happened. In my opinion, it would appear that Chauvin's knee was primarily on the back or the side or the area in between Floyd's neck. Not even on the neck, according to the guy who actually did the autopsy. Now, they brought in a bunch of other people. 4 expert witnesses also came in to talk about causation. Dr. Tobin, and many others. They all came in and they said, no, it's definitely the knee. None of them, though, performed an autopsy on Floyd, nor did they even rely on Baker's medical examination to come to their conclusions. Baker didn't seek out their info. They all just kind of watched the video and came to their own conclusions. Tobin was the first causation person to come out and testify. Never testified in a criminal trial before. He was contacted by the state. He said, I've watched the video hundreds of times. He agreed that he watched them from all different angles. And I watched a lot. Now, his credentials don't say anything about him being a video expert at all. He didn't use any special images to analyze the videos. But he came out and told the jury. He just said, I watched a lot of these videos. Chauvin's left knee is on his neck. And he says, I've calculated it. It's 90% of the time. There's certain times where you don't have a good view. So I think the knee was up there for 57% of the time based on my mathematical formulas and watching the videos. Now, he was unsure of Chauvin's weight, so he's doing these calculations, and he's trying to come up with pressure, and just made up a bunch of stuff, talking about these height, weight, and gender, and says airflow was totally shut off. Then he went through another series of equations. He said, by the time Chauvin lifted his knee, not one molecule of oxygen would have remained in the body. That's pretty amazing. Not a single molecule of oxygen in the entire body. Wow. And just said a bunch of nonsense. And they repeated all of his statements during closing arguments. And he said he got strangled. His conclusions were the opposite of what Dr. Baker said. Here's several examples. Baker said Floyd's very severe heart disease mattered. And Tubin basically said differently. Baker says fentanyl and methamphetamine were factors. Tobin, no, there was no evidence he died from meth. There's no evidence fentanyl affected his ability to breathe, and on and on. Okay, total disagreements between the experts. But then they brought out another doctor, Dr. Smock. He says he's got some forensic training and he's a pathologist. What did he get his evidence from? Videos. He watched videos multiple times. He says he could tell by the video that fentanyl didn't cause his death, watching the videos. Asked whether any evidence was found in the autopsy about significant use of force. He says, well, I don't even need to read the autopsy. There's no evidence in the autopsy, but it's on the videotape, sir. I watched the video. He admitted that there was no other evidence of airway obstruction other than what he saw on the video. All these experts. Dr. Lindsay Thomas comes in. She's working for 37 years. She's done 5,000 autopsies. Didn't examine the report at all. Instead, what did she look at? Videos. Many videos. I watched a lot of videos. And these videos are unique. And I can understand what's happening physiologically in a person's body by watching a video. Cardiologist Dr. Jonathan Rich also said the same thing. He watched the videos from many different angles and he concluded low oxygen levels because he watched a lot of the videos. Now, all of the videos show proper training techniques. 3 witnesses with authority over these training tactics would testify at trial. Arredondo was there. Blackwell also was there. And there were other relevant policies about how all this works. You can see it right here. Okay, they're in handcuffs. What now? Oh, look at that right there. Knee on the neck right there. Look at that right there from their friggin' PowerPoint slides. Okay, they're in handcuffs. Now what do you do, police officer? 1. Sudden cardiac arrest typically occurs. They even mention that. Place the subject in a recovery position to alleviate positional asphyxia. Once in handcuffs, get EMS to the scene, sign a transport hold on these individuals, and complete a report. So Chauvin was doing exactly what he was trained to do. Now, here's another one. Right there. Looks exactly like that. Right there. The state filed a motion in limine to keep this out. The state said, we don't want you. They're prosecuting Chauvin. They want to convict him. Don't bring that in as evidence that he's allowed to do that. The state filed a motion to keep that evidence out. Their argument is that Chauvin didn't see the presentation. So how can you prove that he saw that PowerPoint slide? So they wanted to keep that out. The state told the trial court that Chauvin would not have received any training like this. And so the state was quoting from some emails. On March, though, a month after the state filed its motion, another inspector met with prosecutors to prepare for the trial. She told those present that the neck restraint was technically authorized, but would have stopped it if she had seen it performed on May 25. Okay, so they're all even admitting it was technically authorized. The state kept it out of evidence successfully, but trial counsel did not learn of that until 2 weeks after voir dire had begun. Trial counsel could only impeach with Bates, but you can't use that in the trial, right? So the jurors didn't see it. Now, in the wake of this ruling, prosecutors called Arredondo to testify. They presented exhibits and said, as you reflect, I must ask you, is this a trained technique? He says no. So it's your belief that what Chauvin was doing violates department policy, even though you just saw the slide. I absolutely, says a cop backstabbing Chauvin, I absolutely agree that that violates our policy. When I look at the face of Mr. Floyd, that is not light pressure. Another cop stabbing Chauvin in the back. Looking at Exhibit 17, you say this is not a trained technique? Correct. It's not. Floyd is dying. Blackwell, another cop, takes a stand, also stabs Chauvin in the back. I'd like you to look at Exhibit 17. Is that a trained technique that you just saw Chauvin, with the actual photo of Chauvin and Floyd? No. Why not? Well, it has to be consistent. So per policy, a neck restraint is not allowed. Well, I don't know what kind of improvised position that is. That's not what we're allowed to train on. It's literally in your slides, bro. The next day, Mercil was asked, "Sir, is this a neck restraint?" "No, sir." "Has it ever been?" "No." "Not a neck restraint?" "No, sir." "No, we're not allowed to do that." State, once again, made no attempt to correct it. And then they put this slide up. All of them say, unreasonable, illegal, shouldn't have done it, shouldn't have done it. All these cops stabbing Chauvin right in the back. All these chiefs abandoning their cops, even though it's in the slides, okay? It's literally in the slides, as we just showed you. So then they'll, no, I've never seen that before. I can't believe Derek Chauvin did this. Then on October 17th, others published their lying. This was a book critical of testimony. The book made 3 statements, seemingly saying that they're lying. In late 2024, Katie Blackwell filed a lawsuit. And now, since this happened, 34 current or former officers have come forward to give us a sworn statement. All 34 cops came in and they said, yeah, we're allowed to use that technique. They're lying to you about this. All those cops testified lying. Not only was the knee to neck trained, it was commonly used. Somebody submits an affidavit. Yeah, we used it all the time. Besides me, someone else says, numerous police officers participated in the training. This wasn't a secret. I know numerous officers that were trained to place their knee on the side of a neck. It was common knowledge. It was trained in the open. Someone else, besides me, we were all in this training. And besides me and many others, this wasn't a secret. It's necessary for the officer to pin him on the ground. They all said it. Now, the suit came out, was dismissed, and there's several images of these officers using this technique. And they've made findings. In fact, yeah, they did make findings. MPD policy, Minneapolis policy, was at odds with their testimony. They lied about it. They said, this is not what we train at all, but they have it. In fact, training materials from 18 and 19 show images of it. 34 officers swore that they were trained with this technique. And so the other cops lied, in my opinion. Katie Blackwell also signed a declaration. And at the close of trial, the jury was instructed erroneously. And so this was a big problem. Now, we need to correct this record. And more in the argument comes down. They say the trial court failed to deliberate or delineate between the practice of medicine and video viewing. It abused its discretion. There was medical evidence that was presented, but there was no medical evidence of asphyxia at all. Everybody just said, I watched the video a lot. So you have to be based off evidence. The state's cause for causation was subjective. In the words of Dr. Baker, the only person who actually examined him, he said, the videos should have no relevance. This means either one of two things. Baker was lying, he wasn't, or Tobin and the other experts were. Physicians cannot watch videos and come to medical conclusions. Now, this is correct in Minnesota. It's been widely recognized in other jurisdictions. There's a line between video and reality that this court never indulged in. Foundational reliability is a concept that needs to be introduced, and video is direct evidence of what happened in the video, but it's circumstantial evidence of causation. You can watch a video a bunch, but it can't help you identify whether his heart failed or whether he was asphyxiated. You need some more evidence other than that. None of the video evidence sheds any light of what happened inside his body, including the chemical reactions in his blood, brain, arteries, and more. How much air was in his lungs? Expert testimony needs to come in to establish causation, and they couldn't do that. The Supreme Court in Minnesota has held that video evidence alone, without any support of medical findings, is not adequate for causation. That's a huge case for them. There was a a school bus monitor who struck her head on the console When the bus came to a stop, they did a CT scan. No evidence of a concussion was found. The factor was the video. The lower court came through. They said a video is not alone substantive enough. Continuing on. So the use of video evidence needs to be distinguished. You have to be clear what it's being used for. And these other experts and their testimony was not any good. Toobin came in. He created all these mathematical formulas, but it was all basically speculation. He was just trying to wrap his conclusion in some math. This isn't cutting edge scientific research. No specialized equipment was used. He slowed down, he paused, he rewound a video a bunch of different times, and then came up with justification for causation. There's also prosecutorial misconduct too. The record in this case explains how prosecutors improperly pulled out expert witness testimony for their own ends. And they have weak causation. Only thing they have are experts who watch the video. No other supporting evidence at all. There's a glaring lack of medical evidence on any theory of asphyxia. Dr. Baker didn't watch the video because he didn't want to bias his exam. And the exam showed heart problems. Enlarged heart, fentanyl, methamphetamine, adrenaline, chronic heart disease all led to cardiopulmonary arrest. Baker was careful to use each one of the three processes, explained everything that happened and how it contributed to his death. The state knew all of this, but they had to bring in other experts to undermine their own coroner. Now, Baker agreed he could not perform those calculations because they're irrelevant. Many other people deferred to the coroner, and they kept trying to discredit Baker, the guy who actually led the autopsy. So this was improper. A lot of this testimony shouldn't have come in at all. All of these statements are speculative. They lack foundation. And the judge just let it all in. Speculating more testimony from the trial. And other experts shouldn't have even been allowed to come in as experts. There's this Daubert standard that we talk a lot about, which is how do you validate expert witnesses? And should they be validated at all? Prosecutors were successful in keeping images out, but Chauvin should be granted a new trial. He was following techniques that they literally trained, and he couldn't even present evidence of that. It contained false answers, 5 false answers by MPD supervisors, and prosecutors failed to correct them. Okay, the cops lied about their own training in order to satiate the media and to imprison Chauvin. So with all of this testimony now articulated, they're saying Chauvin deserves a new trial. These techniques were authorized. These people who testified about them were lying about it. And his due process rights were destroyed. His position remained the same. He was following his training appropriately, and he couldn't even talk about it. Now, this testimony took defense counsel by surprise. Katie Blackwell was the commander of the training, a key witness, but Chauvin had no way to visually demonstrate that Blackwell was not telling the truth after they came in and said he wasn't trained on this. After the false testimony, the cross-examination by the defense lasted for less than 3 minutes because they were shocked. She came and lied. Well, I can't confirm that he was personally trained on that, but the jury knew that he was up to date, but we couldn't respond to it because she just came out and essentially lied. So Derek Chauvin is entitled to a new trial. They walked through some of the bad jury instructions, and Chauvin's rights were significantly impacted. So we got to have a new trial. Fast forwarding to the conclusion, and through a bunch of case law, Joseph Law, Gregory J. Joseph, says 34 officers have come out to support him. He was following lawful techniques. We were presenting actual medical evidence. We connected causation appropriately to heart disease drugs, and more. And so we need a new hearing in a petition for post-conviction relief signed by Gregory J. Joseph in the Derek Chauvin matter. So petition for post-conviction relief, these are almost like appeals, but it's saying we've uncovered new evidence, in this case, more facts that he was actually employing a technique that other law enforcement officials had validated and approved. And Chauvin got abused. This took place in the aftermath of the Trump election, and there were people who just wanted to convict him no matter what. We went through the trial. We're happy to see that there's still some fight left in him on this one, but this appeal will likely take time. And at the moment, he's sitting in custody while the corrupt prosecutors, and it sounds like the lying cops who testified against him, all run free. Chauvin, the victim, of course, of another political propaganda operation to energize and weaponize a whole constituency in the middle of an election, and he got abused for it. So we'll keep our eye on this one. Hopefully the courts can look at this with a fresh set of eyes, but it is Minnesota. We'll keep our eye on this one, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right. Well, it has been a beautiful early stream, my friends. Thank you for joining us on the day. If you're just getting here, quick recap on what we talked about. We had some new emails get dumped in the Jack Smith investigation, and these were some good ones because we were able to identify messages from these two, Molly Gaston and J.P. Cooney, colluding with others to spy on Republicans in a massive dragnet. They wrote a little memo. It's like a page and a half explaining why they were justified in doing this. Of course, the president was allowed to communicate with other senators about the election and the rigging of it. And so now senators calling for action and justice against them, a whole list of senators and representatives, hopefully waking up with a little bit of vengeance in their blood because they got abused and they should act accordingly. They're senators, of course. Then we saw Epstein emails come out and some interesting updates here because we learned that there was a bunch of jail video footage, 8 terabytes, 147 different videos. The FBI apparently moved 1,000 people to start rounding up evidence on the Epstein files, paid almost $1 million. Then all of it turned into a hoax, and we were told to stop asking about it. Now we can ask about it again. And so we'll see if we get our hands on these materials. But a nice set of emails dropped courtesy of Bloomberg, lots of redactions on it, but we went through it and hit the highlights there. Then we talked about Derek Chauvin, and of course, he filed a massive petition for post-conviction relief, 71 pages, trying to get his convictions reversed because he was attacked, essentially, for enforcing the law. People were rallying around George Floyd for political purposes, and Derek Chauvin was made to be the scapegoat, but he fights on. We'll keep our eye on it, of course. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. It's a beautiful day. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. Members, stick around. We'll have an after party. We'll debrief after the show is over and see what else you have to say about all of the things and more. But let's see who is here and joining us. I think I saw we got some new membos who joined up. K Bean, thank you for clipping for us on the day. We do have a couple new membos. What a nice thing this is. Tasadaka. Hi, Rob. You and your community have been a true blessing towards me and my family. I wanted to send this thank you message from my husband for all the generosity that has been poured upon us. From Tasadaka, a YouTube video. Well, thank you for that, Tasadaka. Okay, well, I'll take a look at that. Thank you for that. Honestly, you've been a blessing to us. Thank you for being membos on Locals. Shout out to your husband. We're very grateful to have you, and we appreciate you supporting our work so that we can do all of this and work on saving our country together. We're grateful for that. Nikki P, what's up? Hey, happy Thanksgiving to you and your beautiful bride. Yeah, I think Alexis, so I think we're going to be back tomorrow. We'll do a short stream. We'll say what's up. We'll say happy Thanksgiving. And my folks should be here. So Alexis, Mama, Joey, Greg, everybody should be here. In fact, Can I share something with you about my amazing mama? My amazing mama was in the news. Check this out. From the National Catholic Reporter, this story came out about the Emmaus Ministry. You know, holidays are tough for a lot of people because you have lost loved ones, and it's helps you remember them, and it's like a sad state of affairs when you have these floods of memories come racing back. But shout out to my mama. Check this out. For many Catholic parents who've lost a child, like my mama did, we lost my bro and her son Eric, finding a spiritual way to handle their grief in our secularized culture is challenging. But that's why we have the Emmaus Ministry, founded 2009 in Boston, offering faith-based retreats to parents whose child have died, helping them mourn their loss and seek hope in the promise of the resurrection of the dead. Fast forwarding, that's what Emmaus is. We have Emmaus walks. We have those amazing bells. Now, what's interesting about this, as we scroll through this amazing article, and all these awesome people are talking about it, what do we have here? Dun, 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 dun. Part of the retreat involves parents writing letters to their child. The letters are often then burned, and then ashes are added to the incense that will be burned during the liturgy, allowing the letters to rise in prayer. Look who's next. Marianne Gouveia's son, Eric, my bro, died by suicide early 2016. She attended counseling, but didn't feel like it was helping. Yeah. A friend sent her a copy of Catholic Digest that happened to include a story about the Emmaus Ministry. That November, she traveled from Phoenix to attend the Emmaus retreat in Boston. Then afterward, Marianne Gouveia, Mama G, she wanted to offer retreats in Phoenix. The Monahans offered initial guidance and training. Gouveia and her husband, Greg, have now offered over 15 Emmaus retreats, as well as additional retreats for those who have lost someone to suicide. Gouveia, my mama, is a lifelong Catholic, and her father, Grampy, may he rest in peace, was a deacon who worked with the bereaved. But she realized she never had a truly close relationship with God, and that was what she was missing. She said, my mama, it's kind of freeing when we know we can simply surrender all our pain and sorrow and recognize that God carries us and is our strength on the good days and the bad days. Amen, Mama. She now sees it as her calling to help other parents who are going through the same thing. This to her is one of the strengths of the Emmaus Ministry. It's parent-led. Part of our healing process is giving back to others, she said. Ultimately, however, the true peace and comfort will not come from other people, which is why she struggled with secular grief support options. That help was going to come from God, Gouveia said. Mama G. Smart woman. I'm a lucky son. But shout out to Mama G. Shout out to all the parents who've lost a loved one. And we're thankful for the people who are paying it forward. You know, it's a beautiful format. You want to find yourself in this middle position, right here, in this middle position. You have somebody ahead of you on the road who can act as a sponsor or a guide, a mentor. And then you have somebody less accomplished on the road behind you that you can mentor to. Put yourself in that middle position so you've got some support in front and you can provide some support in back. And if we all do something like that, then we have a very tight community of love, baby. It's a beautiful thing. All right, so thank you for those, my friends. Thanks for letting me share that with you, Nikki P. So and the reason for sharing that is maybe Mama G will pop down tomorrow and say hello. Thank you, Nikki P. Thanks for being here for 29 months. That's multiple babies, and we're happy to have you here. Just Rhonda, our purveyor of fine emojis, bringing in 10 new membos. Vice Mom 5000 is here. What's up? Linda Diaz, welcome. Chuck Sherwood, Kelly's here. Kat is here. Gene Muntz, what's up? The Outlaw, General Bacon. We got Lethal in the house, Digital Soldier, and Jan Marr gifted memberships courtesy of Just Rhonda in the house. Thank you, Just Rhonda, for bringing in 10 new membo friends. How nice of you to do that. Welcome, friends. New membos, hang tight. We're going to member debrief here in a minute. Rubos. Hey, the Rubos at RuboSaltShop.com. Happy Thanksgiving, Rob, Alexis, Mama G, and Joey, and our beloved Watcher family. We are grateful for your kindness, strength, humor, and the light you bring to this world. May your homes be filled with warmth, joy, and abundant blessing today and always. With love and gratitude from The Rubos over at rubosaltshop.com. They also have a great book on Amazon now called My Father's Miraculous Rock Soup. I've read it. It's great. And it's a beautiful story. And I think it's a very nice tribute to your family. So honestly, it's like, it gave me inspiration. I'm like, man, I should do something like that for my family. That's really nice. Like my mom is meatballs or something, you know, it's inspirational. So if you're looking for something too, it's a great story, but it's also, it might be like a good thing to do for your family. So you can kind of, you know, steal the idea from them. Sorry about that, Rubos, but it's true. rubosaltshop.com. It's beautiful family photos. It's really great. So check it out. Their book, My Father's Miraculous Rock Soup. Renee Sargent. You know, releasing emails and documents does nothing. Liberals simply say they are fake and they actually believe they are fake. Yeah, and then they indict everybody for releasing fake documents. Like, how dare you try to incriminate us? Now you're going to jail. Again, you're like, oh gosh, I know, Renee, I get pretty tired of all the memos. Gauntlet KI, can you get DC social media press pass from Levitt? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that'd be amazing, right? That's kind of what we're thinking. So we're going to go check out DC over the New Year's break. We're going to be there for a bit. We're going to go check it out and maybe we'll get a press pass and make it a permanent thing and then go in there and ask great questions. Rub some dirt on it. Oh my goodness. Look at this galaxy. This is the Rub Some Dirt says, I found this image of the Horsehead Nebula shot with the C-Star S50, exactly the same device that I have that I never use. I was changing the optical arrangement of my telescope and noted that the Horsehead Nebula is currently up. So I used it to do some testing. I'm thankful that the holiday season will afford you some clear skies and some time to look up and use your stinking telescope. Thank you for that one. I know. Look at these photos, man. It's just crazy. That's out in outer space. That's a real thing that's out there. Just blows my mind every time I think about it. Rub some dirt on it. Thank you, man. And great photos. Thank you for ridiculing me, as always. Carinius D, what's up? Hey, I don't know why YouTube now shows handles, not names, aka the Lomax. They just are, I think, testing things. We went through this like 6 months ago. They changed it, then they changed it back. I think we're going through it again. But I wish Cash and Pam would get off their butts, stop taking pics, and get some work done. I don't think you're alone in that, Kyrenius X. I think a lot of people are starting to say, okay, look, all this talking is great. Like, we're coming up on a year. We just had the Comey and Letish cases dismissed. You keep saying you're investigating things and openness and blah, blah, blah. It's hard to trust you. Can we get the emails from the 4 Arctic remaining FBI? Well, I know Congress is demanding a bunch of records, and some of these records came over from Pam, right? Like we saw that with these records. So she said here, produced to Congress by the Department of Justice. That's great. Like, it's nice to see that for once. Normally, documents we're reviewing are whistleblower documents. You know, if somebody leaks them from something, it's not like an official request. The DOJ should be more forthcoming with these records so that we can expose the corruption and have some consequences for it. Gauntlet, thank you. Rub some dirt on it. Hey, here's my sample data capture of the hydrogen alpha, the HA data. You can do it, Rob. You know where the C-Star is. Look at that photo, man. What is even going on out there? Wild. Rub some dirt on it. Thank you for the photos and happy gazing out there. Sarcasmo, send lawyers, guns, and money. The poop has hit the fan. Send lawyers. Okay, so is it send lawyers, guns, and money? Because I'm a lawyer and I like guns and money, you know? So that sounds good. Or is it send lawyers, comma, guns, comma, and money? Because we all need to go in there. Stuff has hit the fan. Hey, what's going on? I'm always thankful for you, Gigum. Look at this. This is Operation Whirlpool Galaxy out here. Man, he looks great. Gigum made this. Rub some dirt on it. I don't even know how you do these. Look at this. It looks like a NASA logo, doesn't it? Or Watcher logo. You look great. Rub some dirt on it, man. Maybe one day we can send you up there on one of Elon's little rides. And then you can take some photos up there from outer space. Those would be great. Hey, Carinius X. Just watch Bondi screw up the Comey and the James appeal. Oh, gosh. Don't even say it, Kyrenius. Those cases better come back. They better come back. Rub some dirt on it, and I'm thankful for you, Rob, and the work you put in to help us all get along. I know, there's our get along shirt. I love this image. I feel like this one, I'm pretty okay with Trump at the moment, but I think that maybe me and Cash could get in that shirt together. Our get along shirt. And he can explain to me exactly what he's doing with Butler, Epstein, Kirk, J6, and more. I'd get into that. All right, Cash, let's do it. We got a lot of time together. Got a lot of questions for you there, amigo. Andy, what's up? If the government told me water was wet, I wouldn't believe them at this point. I know it's pretty much that, right? If the FBI came out and like, listen, anything they said, you're like, okay, whatever. We'll validate that ourselves. Release the files and we'll look at it ourselves. Rub some dirt on it. Here's the missing Epstein shoe video. Yeah, it's what's that guy's name? Leslie Nielsen, something. Nothing to see here. Please disperse. There's nothing going on here. Look the other way, everybody. Don't pay attention. The whole shoe, the whole area went dead and went dark. Give me a break. Redeemed patriot. With most of Congress being implicated in the Epstein case, wouldn't the military conduct their own investigations due to national security concerns? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I guess if the military was implicated, like, why wouldn't they be? Why would Epstein be communicating with Stacey Plaskett but not have contacts inside the military? So, the military could investigate themselves, but I think if you're you would be talking about like a military dictatorship. Like the military would come in and start investigating civil society's criminal offenses. I don't think anything like that is currently going on that I've seen, but you're right. We do have a conflict of interest problem. Like, how many other Congress people are also texting Epstein? And same in the executive branch. This is generally why we have inspector generals, because it's an independent agency that goes out and makes their own investigation and conclusions, but maybe he was texting them too. Rub some dirt on it. Hey, I'm also thankful Rob and Alexis is here to help manage your time, Rob. It's clear she's getting you to the gym, right? It's true, because this is a real photo too. It's a real photo too. Took that right before our wedding. It's true. It's a real photo. Isn't she beautiful? Look at that outfit too. I love that dress. Love you, baby. Hey, Hook. Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Rob. This is our turkey, Buford. 5.5 months old. Will be enjoying Thanksgiving dinner with us. In what capacity? Her favorites include bacon and shredded cheese. Since she's our only turkey, she hangs out with my dogs all day and thinks she is one. You really have a turkey? So like, she's gonna be enjoying turkey dinner with you alive, I think is what you're saying. You're not gonna feed her any turkey, are you? It's gonna be like a hello Clarice, hello turkey. Remember that character? Anyways, that's super fun. What a nice looking turkey. Whether you eat that turkey or whether that turkey eats with you, either way, it's gonna be a beautiful day. Hook. Shout out to your meal. And I don't know what's going on with this turkey, but maybe rest in peace very soon. We'll find out. Hey, rub some dirt on it. The first rule of FBI Club is that you don't talk about the FBI Club. The second rule of the FBI Club is that you don't talk about the FBI Club. It's a great movie. What's up, Tyler Durden? Good to see you. Yeah, they don't really want to talk about their criminality. Sua Sponte says this is obviously satire, but right in line with everything else that's been going on, happening not far off, right? Wishing you, your beautiful bride, and the entire family, and you too, Sua Sponte, the best Thanksgiving and holiday season. Thanks for being my favorite addiction. Well, right back at you, Sua Sponte, too. I appreciate you. Thank you for this. Yeah, so this one from Nick Sorter. Breaking. Federal judge issues an injunction blocking President Trump's pardon of Gobble from taking effect. Trump's pardon's already canceled by Judge Chutkan. She's hungry. She wants that turkey executed immediately. My heart goes out to Officer Chauvin, says Alana Noble, who was unlawfully convicted while criminal Floyd had a statue erected. a statue erected. I hope he receives the justice he deserves and is released. Yeah, I mean, it was a bloodbath, that whole thing. And everybody just like abandoned him too. Most of the Republicans, all right, see you later. Don't want to anger the woke mob, of course. Rick D, yeah, that left anterior descending is what we in the medical field call the widowmaker. Left anterior descending. You don't want those tubes clogged. Thank you, Rick D. Good details. Yeah, his heart was a disaster. Angela Hines, what's up? Welcome aboard, Angela. We'll see you in a few minutes on our members only segment. James Kipp, what's up? 3 months here, 1/3 of the way to a baby. One of two retired manager, level 1 trauma center, Yale, etc. From James? That's you? Man, those are nice credentials. Thank you, James, for that. Thanks for being here for 3 months. Amazing. Shiloh. Didn't Congress's oversight committee get the emails the Dems released from the Epstein estate? Yeah, that's right. They did. That was like those 20,000, they came from Congress from the Epstein estate because Congress sent a subpoena that apparently Cash can't send. I could have sworn I read that's where they got them. Yeah, you're right. From the Epstein estate. So why can't Cash go get them if Congress can get them? Oh, great. Swalwell's lawsuit against the admin has been assigned. You're kidding me. Are you serious? Stinky Eric Swalwell, who allegedly made Bang Bang with Fang Fang, a Chinese spy, is suing the administration for getting his mortgage records. And the case just got assigned to Judge Jeb Boasberg. You're kidding. That's amazing, Rick. Thank you for that. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. Hey, Texas, Caddy did. Unpopular opinion, but Chauvin's refusal to get off Floyd stopped him from recognizing Floyd was in trouble and getting help. What Chauvin did is called Burking, after Burke and Hare resurrection men. Ooh, I'm not familiar with that term. Yeah, I understand your point, and I think you might agree that once something goes bad, like you should get off and try to flip him over. Is he dead now? Like, is he dying? What's going on? But they just got done fighting with him, and I think, maybe there's some residual. If you get off of him, he's going to get back up again. So it does feel, calloused in that he was on there for 9 minutes, and like once the body goes limp, right, you kind of think, okay, might as well check on this person. Like there wasn't a lot of humanity there. I didn't think there was any humanity there, but a lack of humanity and a lack of compassion, that is not necessarily murder, right? And it goes back down to causation. Like what actually caused Floyd's death? And is there reasonable doubt about whether the knee on the neck did that? And I think absolutely, there's plenty of reasonable doubt. His heart failed. Even the coroner said that. So I get it. Like I probably wouldn't like Derek Chauvin. I'm a defense attorney. Generally cops and I don't get along very well, generally speaking. There are a lot of amazing cops out there. We have a lot of amazing officers in this community, but as a general rule, cops generally don't like defense attorneys, and defense attorneys don't like bad cops at all. And I like cops that have humanity. And I've gotten I've gotten really good life lessons from good officers, who've handled situations admirably. I don't think that Chauvin did that, but that's not murder unless it is murder. So that's our point. But I understand it. I understand it, Texas, and I can empathize with that. It's like, why didn't you just roll him over once he's totally limp and like dying? 4 minutes in, you pull him over. Hey man, smack him in the face, try to wake him up. Maybe you don't get charged if you just do something like that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he killed him, right? Kyrenius, FYI, $1 million penalty for Trump's 2020 lawsuits. I saw that headline, the lawsuits against Hillary, right? And Alina Abba hit with $1 million sanction for frivolous lawsuits. We'll see if that stands. Shiloh, what's up? Welcome back. Becoming a membo. Great to have you back. We'll see you in a few minutes. This old guy says, the real culprit in the Chauvin trial was the judge. Jury instructions were entirely lacking and invalid. I know you had limited time to cover all that, but the lies by the police administrators and cops pale against the damage poor jury instructions did. Yeah, we kind of fast forwarded through that segment or that portion of it, but yeah, the whole thing was rigged from the beginning. This old guy, thank you for that. James Skip, 202 autopsy should show petechial hemorrhages, eyes, face, loss of gray matter, brain swelling from anoxia, his talk screen, OTC, major comorbidities, no extra traumas there from James Kip in the house. Great to have you there. Hey, what's going on, Lilu? Rob, I respect your opinion and appreciate your streams and your eloquent ability to explain all of this ongoing activity. I was waiting to get blasted in the aftermath of that, but this is great. We're not. What is your personal opinion that the Republicans will do to enforce justice to all of the lawfare? Well, as it stands right now, nothing. The Republicans are doing nothing to address this. The number one thing that they could do right now, that they have power over and that they have an actual duty to enforce, is impeachment of the judges. We've got a couple of articles of impeachment for Boasberg that have been introduced. I've heard nothing about it moving forward. Mike Johnson, and I think we did a little sample of this yesterday, but here, let me see if I can just do it right now. It's like, you can go over and look at all of the Republican accounts on X and just see if they're even talking about any judges or any corrupt prosecutions. Not really. Okay. You can go through the whole list of them. What's Mike Johnson talking about? Thanksgiving. He just showed up with his wife to do a podcast. Also talking about taxes. Great. Talking about driving costs down. Great. November 24th, Thanksgiving costs. Prayers. Great. Blue states, illegal aliens, forced jailing families, famine, some stupid vote on denouncing socialism that no one cares about. Okay, stop with your stupid little gimmicks. Do something. November 20th, millions for terror groups. Okay, natural gas ban. Not a single comment about Comey. Not a single comment about Letitia. Not a single comment about the spying on House Republicans. Nothing in these emails. Nothing. What about John Thune? What's he up to over there in the Senate? He's over there in Sioux Falls. Great. Now he's over there in Rapid City taking photographs, putting on a hard hat, taking photographs with some people. That's fun. Stop by Hill City High School. Great discussion with student council. Great job, John. Nice job. November 24th at another education building, taking some more photos. Out hunting, taking some photos. Senate Republicans talking about inflation. Now November 19th, talking about the shutdown. Leader Thune, more shutdown crap. Not a single word about the judges. Not a single word about the FBI or the DOJ or the pipe bomber. Nothing, okay? Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, they'll run their mouths about it. Jim Jordan talks about getting spied on. Then he talks about football. Great, more football stuff. Reposting, we covered those documents today. Thanksgiving costs, reposting House Judiciary. Memphis crime, Arctic frost. Jim Jordan's talking about it a little bit, not doing anything about it, just talking about it. Rand Paul, is he talking about it? No. Debt, liberties under attack, New York City socialist, Fauci, of course, all important issues. But the Republicans just aren't even talking about it. They just don't even care for the most part. The leaders don't care. So are they going to move impeachment forward on the judges? I doubt it. Are they going to hold substantive hearings on anything? I doubt it. It feels like they're all just kind of waiting for the clock to run out so that they can lose the midterms and then slunk back into the minority. A little bit of a black pill there, but they're not doing anything. Old Coach Crane. Hey, 27 months as a membo. Thank you for that, Old Coach. Multiple babies there. Great show today. Lots of news. Thank you, Old Coach. Yeah, I was a little nervous that we weren't going to have much to talk about because everything's pretty slow out there, but we had some good stuff here. So that was good. Old Coach, thank you for being here. 27 months. Look at my beautiful mama. This is also a real photo. It's real. That's when she was the Empress of Meatball Galactica over there in Paris. What's up, mama? Hey, Neuro D, happy Thanksgiving to the Gouveia family and all the watchers. You too, Neuro D. Thanks for saying that, my man. May God bless you all and you too. And I'll try to drag my mama down here tomorrow and make her come on. Shiloh, oh man, 2-year membo gone because I had to get a new card. Ugh. When my identity was stolen, I missed my Google date. Damn thieves, here's the 2 years. Cheers, Shiloh. Yeah. Sometimes people bail out and I saw you come back and I was like, I thought, okay, welcome back. But anyways, all right, we'll make a mental note. 2-year Membo. Awesome. Yeah, you got to change your card. Thank you for that, Shiloh. Thanks for being here for so long. You're amazing. Diane K. Lacey talking Widowmakers. The left anterior descending artery is called the Widowmaker because a blockage in the artery can lead to a severe heart attack that is often fatal. All right, so loosen that artery up, right? Make sure it's loose over there. Thank you for that one, Diane K. Lacey. Hey, strong heart woman. God bless your beautiful, faithful mama. I don't know, she's amazing. Turning a horrific loss into a faith-filled, hope and empathetic haven for other grieving families is an amazing feat of love and faith. I honestly don't even know how she does it. These are such heavy losses. I've met a lot of grieving parents through my mom and through Eric's house. And the energy that a grieving family comes in with, it's really hard to even describe. It's almost unlike anything that you feel from another human. Parents come in with a dead child. It's a whole different reality. And I had a dead brother, so I know it from that experience. But talking to two parents who just lost their 11-year-old or something, it's unfathomable the amount of pain that it's hard to even explain. And so to have my mom and Greg, my beautiful father, go through and help groups of people like this, the amount of weight, the emotional weight is just amazing. So I think it's by the grace of God. I don't know how else to explain it. So it's kind of like a little miracle that goes on. Strong heart woman, you're awesome. Shout out to our parents and our grieving parents. We love you. The taco vendor. Hey, happy Thanksgiving to you and your beautiful bride. 7 months, the taco vendor. Man, shout out. We love taco vendors. Thanks for being here. 2 months, we'll have a full baby in the house. The taco vendor, you rock. To Sadaka, what's going on? Says, my niece at the age of 14 never made it home from school. Oh gosh, I'm sorry to hear that, to Sadaka. Her remains were found 75 miles from home and weren't identified for a year. The journey through that brought my sister to the Lord. She graduated this year as a minister. Man, shout out to your sister. I'm sorry for your loss and for her loss. That's horrible. 14-year-old niece never made it home. Yeah, so that's what ericshouse.org is really for. It's what does a family do when that happens? There's not a ton of support. That's terrible. It's just terrible. Rest in peace. She's up there with our loved ones. The statute of limitations has long passed. One on handcuffing a violent resisting suspect posed many problems for the LEO. Back in the day, PCP was a drug of choice for many addicts. Physical pain does not get compliance. I personally have pinned many violently resisting suspects by pinning their head to the ground, wrist lock, and getting handcuffs on the suspect. I guess that I just got lucky because that was taught in the police academy and retrained. I would like him to sue everyone, says former LEO in the house. Yeah, and remember they were also coming after people for headlocks and stuff. And it's I grappled, I wrestled, I did American pancration and some other, jujitsu stuff. And it's how else are you supposed to subdue somebody if you're not locking their neck? You want to just beat them in the skull and give them a concussion or something? So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense that it would be trained and that he would use a neck restraint. Marcia Levine, what's up? And Jay Liebgott, what's up, Jay Liebgott? 22 months as a member, Jay. Thank you for this. Says, I started a YouTube Shorts channel about space. Whoa, at WTSF. That sounds awesome. Man, I love space. I really liked space as a boy. It's you pick, you can do dinosaurs, construction, space, or sharks. You get those 4 choices as a boy. And I really liked space, I think, a lot. And dinosaurs, too. And construction, too. And sharks are also pretty cool. But, space was pretty wild. Marcia Levine, am I one of the few here who knows where send lawyers, guns, and money, the stuff has hit the fan, comes from? You might be. I don't know where it came from. Rest in peace to Warren Zevon. Who is Warren Zevon? Let's see. Warren Zevon. This was an American rock singer. Yeah. And songwriter. He wrote a song called Lawyers, Guns, and Money. So it's send lawyers, guns, and money. It's not send lawyers, guns, and money. Marcia, you got more rock experience than we do. Thank you, Marcia, for being here. Good fella. Hey, what's up? Good fella D says, I believe Robert Barnes said the Comey case is now past the statute of limitations and they can't refile against him. I think there's an argument that that is true. And I think there's an argument that is not true. And we talked about it yesterday. I think the saving statute is 3288. I think you can make the argument that that saving statute doesn't apply. And I think you can make the argument that it does apply. So we'll see where that one goes. I still have not seen a notice of appeal or any updates on that. I don't know. I think the DOJ can go a couple routes. And again, both of these could be arguable under the statute of limitations. But one, Lindsay Halligan was appointed under Section 546. That's the 120-day limitation. So they could appeal that. And if the 120-day limitation that the courts are imposing is unconstitutional, and I think it is, then the case is back on. Lindsay Halligan is the U.S. attorney. Case goes back. There's no statute of limitations problem. If not, I think that you could also appoint another special attorney under Section 515, which is the same section that Bondi tried to reappoint Halligan to retroactively. Court said you couldn't do that. But that doesn't mean she doesn't have that power. So I think Section 515 can come back. Now, in that argument, you would say that the indictment was already dismissed. But I would say you could argue 3288 is the savings clause that might bring that claim back for a 515 attorney. But I think they could also make the argument that it doesn't apply because the indictment was never valid. The indictment was void from the very beginning, which means the indictments didn't toll anything. But I think the opposite argument would be 3288 says that for any reason, any indictment is dismissed. It doesn't say whether it's void or or valid. So I think you can make a lot of arguments about it both ways, but shout out to Robert Barnes. We appreciate him and his analysis. Laura Larson. What's up, Laura? Thanks for sending this one in over on Rumble. Happy Thanksgiving to you, your family, and your listeners. You too, Laura. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Thank you for saying that. Thanks for watching on Rumble. Bodie. I've been volunteering at an in-house rehab facility through Celebrate Recovery, and it's been an amazing experience. Man, shout out to you, Bodie. I love those places. I have a lot of friends in those spaces. I used to speak at 6 to 8 different treatment centers throughout Arizona when I was practicing criminal law. And I'm an AA person myself. I love AA. I think it's a great program. Recovered alcoholic, recovered ED. It's in the book. So I love it, man. I think people who are early in sobriety are a lot of fun. They have a lot of life. They have a lot of hope. Many of them, a lot of them don't. But if you can help people kind of shift past that, the initial difficulties of becoming sober or kicking whatever your addiction is, it's a beautiful thing. And I got a friend who runs many of them. He owns a bunch of them in Arizona. So I've done, AA talks there. I used to go to treatment centers and we called it Clean Slate Sobriety. It was the name of the program. So I'd go in there, we'd do these 2-hour speeches to people in recovery. And we'd say, about half of them usually have criminal problems as well as having addiction problems, but many of them have criminal problems. And the criminal problems compound your addictive behavior, because you realize I've got nothing going for me. I'm going to come out of jail and prison and I'll still be an addict and I'll have no job and nothing really good going for me. So it's very depressing. So Clean Slate Sobriety was a program that we did where we would go in and help people file motions to set aside their convictions so that if they have had prior convictions or if they have open cases, we can give them advice on their cases. But if they have closed cases, we'd literally fill out the paperwork right there with them and help them. And so that they could go after they get out of rehab, file a petition to set aside their convictions, restore their rights, and get their life back on track. And it was great. I really enjoyed doing those talks. I had a whole little speech and presentation about Arizona misdemeanors and felonies. It was a lot of fun and hopefully helpful to people. And I think it was. I think it really was. And we got some clients out of it too. So we help people for free. And then other people would come and they'd say, I got an active case right now. Oh, well, how convenient. We do criminal defense law. And then we get clients while also helping people. So I think it was a big win-win across the board. Neuro D sharing this one from Carrie B. Remember this? Watching the Watchers, baby, from 51K, one of our mod extraordinaires, shining the light of accountability 5 days a week and on Saturdays for our membos. Amazing, Neuro D. Thank you for that. And shout out to Carrie B. She's over on X over there. OTR Smokehouse. Hey, great show, Rob. Happy Thanksgiving and have a blessed day. And James Pepper says, this one, last year in the Biden administration, stop in Newark, you said. It'll be fine, you said. And look what happened in Newark. The illegal alien gangbangers took his legs, put him on cinder blocks. Be careful. Don't leave your reindeers unattended out there if you're delivering presents. James Pepper, thank you for the other donos and for the other comments on there. When you're attacking Cincinnati and some guy starts throwing turkeys out of a helicopter, here's what Godzilla looks like. Turkeys are coming out of a helicopter? All right. That sounds good. All right, so some good stuff. Angie. Jody says, happy Thanksgiving. God bless you all. Angie says, Jack Smith is a bad guy who needs to be held accountable for his part in the entire deep state legal attack on Trump. Simply having the entire case and its invalid premises is not good enough. Yeah, Feline says we should also thank Ashley Merchant for pursuing Fani's disqualification. She should have a place in the Trump administration, both her and Eileen Cannon. Shout out to Ashley Merchant. She's amazing. And big win for her too over there. Yeah, they crushed it, that case. That was fun. Mark Cook, if anyone didn't see the show trial, you need to watch it. Shout out to Mark. What's up, TR? And thanks to our friends for these comments over on X. Great to see you over there. Thanks for following us over there and following other Watcher fans in the chat. Okay, so Robert Barnes revised that decision. So Robert Barnes revised his opinion. No statute of limitations. Good for 6 months to refile. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and I've seen other arguments too. Like I've seen other arguments from the lefties who say that that statute does not save them. They're saying it's because the judge wrote in there that the entire decision, the entire indictment was void. And you can think about it like an indictment would stay the clock ticking. You indict, okay, clock was about to expire. Now it doesn't expire. You dismiss it. You get a 6-month savings. They're saying that because it was void ab initio from the very beginning, that the 3288 savings clause doesn't apply. I would disagree with that. And we're still waiting to see which way they go. Are they going to appeal it on that basis? Are they just going to abandon Lindsey Halligan and then appoint a special attorney to pick up these cases and then go and try to appoint an actual U.S. attorney through the Senate? Like anything in the law, one of the first things they tell you in law school, the answer to every single legal question is always, it depends, always. So 6 months, I think, is a good argument. I think the cases are going to come back. Personally, I hope I'm right about that. But I think it's ridiculous to say that the executive branch loses their Article 2 appointment powers after 120 days. It's not in the law. It makes no sense. And I don't think the courts will uphold that. Amber Harris. Amber. Hey, love your show. I have watched faithfully, but first time in the chat. Amazing, Amber. I lost my son a couple of months ago. Ugh. Amber, I'm really sorry, but I'm really glad that you said something and said hello. Looking forward to inquiring about the retreat. Yeah, check it out. Amber, check out ericshouse.org. And, you know, my mama would be happy to talk to you if you wanted to reach out. But I'm really sorry to hear that you lost your son. And that's what Eric's House is for. You know, I don't know how or why you lost your son. Doesn't really matter. But there's a lot generally of resources for people who are alive. Like if you're an addict and you're alive, or if you're a suicidal and you're alive, there's counselors, there's groups, there's therapists, there's all sorts of stuff. But when you die, then there's really no money to be made, right? So what does the family do? What do the parents do? How does the family move on? And when my bro died, well, we read through some of my mom's story. You know, it's kind of hard to find support and figure it all out. Are you a failure? Especially if it's a suicide. It's like, are you a failure? Am I a bad brother? she a bad mom? Were you a bad family? Nobody likes to talk about it. Why didn't you save him? What, So there's a lot of social stigma around it. And even if it's not a suicide, even if it's an overdose or even a tragic death, like, the parents, like I've talked to, men, for example, who had their 12-year-old son on an ATV. Son rolls the ATV, cracks his neck, dead instantly, right? Father's like, I just took my son out for ATV rides. Like, that's it. Now he's dead. So like the amount of, I just can't even imagine it. So the point is, we've got to help each other. And, my story, like my brother, man, there's I think a lot of things I could have done to prevent this from happening. And you can play that game all day long and it's a sick game, but we're here. And so we got to help each other. And so that's what I'm talking about, that middle position. Wherever you're at, you want to find somebody that you can help support because you lost your son a couple of months ago, but somebody just lost their son last night, and somebody lost their son years ago, like my mom. So we want to help each other through this process. It's life, man. So Amber, thank you so much for that. I'm really, really sorry for your loss. And I know that there is support out there. So when you're ready and wanting to reach out, please do that. Dan, the issue of appointments getting stuck in the U.S. Senate, which becomes the bottleneck. The judge's ruling should be disputed anyway. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, the Senate doesn't want to do it, but the executive should still be able to put somebody in that seat. If the executive doesn't put somebody in that seat, then I certainly understand the courts can also do it, but it's not they take over that power. So if the Senate doesn't want to act and the executive doesn't want to act, the court will fill the slot, which I think is fine, but they can't take it from the executive and make it exclusionary, which I think is unconstitutional. So Dan, thank you for that, my friends. And what a bunch of great comments. And thanks for hanging with us on this Thanksgiving Eve. What a beautiful day it is. We're going to pause here. We're going to have a short outro. Then we'll come back. We'll hang out with our membos. If you're a membo on YouTube, hang tight. It should automatically bring you over to the new feed. Same on locals. Just hang tight. We'll be there. We're also on Substack if you want to go over there and watch over there. Be sure to check that out. But we're going to debrief. We're going to hang out. We're going to see what else is going on. Hopefully hear from you, hear what your plans are, and maybe even see what you're cooking out there. Mama G and my fam is coming up this afternoon, so we'll be hanging out with them in just a little bit. But my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Thank you for hanging with us. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. We are planning on coming back tomorrow. We'll just do a short stream, say what's up. Maybe we'll do a long stream. Maybe somebody will get indicted tonight. But we'll see. But we'll pause here for the evening. It has been a beautiful week. Thanks for joining us on this day. And thank you to our mods for modding the fort down for us and keeping things nice and orderly around here. Big shouts go out to K-Bean and Carrie B in the house, modding the fort down for us. Muffin Rando, of course, John, we've got Donut Mind Me, Neuro D, Janek Dog Digger, of course, Geegum Geegum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda, our purveyor of fine emojis, all modding the fort down for us here, keeping things oh so nice and orderly. But we're going to pause here for the night, my friends. It's members only time. Hopefully you can come and join us. Thanks for becoming membos and supporting our work here. We'll see you in just a bit. Otherwise, we're going to pause here for the evening. We're going to come back tomorrow to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. Get that appetite a-roaring. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together